Welcome everyone to the promotion relegation games for Umzansi Esports League Season 4. Now, of course, this is the last day that any player, regardless of title, can potentially get themselves in a spot in the next season of the Umzansi Esports League, starting off with the FIFA segment today, which is the first time this weekend we've actually had a chance to speak about FIFA, because obviously there's been unfortunate delays, which we'll talk about in a moment. As for our game for today, unfortunately, we will not be able to actually witness it firsthand. It is currently going live, and we are waiting for our league operations team to let us know who actually went and got that win and who will be moving on to season 5. But in the meantime, we'll have a little bit of chat about some other developments that we've seen this weekend. Speaking about this weekend, yesterday's game that was supposed to happen between Atibara and, of course, we had a very interesting, name that we kind of know already, Darth Mayhem.
Yep.
Actually, that game from yesterday did continue, and the win defaulted to Darth Mayhem, so he will be coming back in the next season. Now, I know that's a little bit of a situation we should be talking about, Snare. So tell me, break it down for anyone who is obviously not, familiar with Umzansi Esports, or at least the season that we've been seeing, and why this is so important that we're seeing Darth Mayhem actually coming back into the Umzansi season.
So the promotion relegation weekend that we've been having this weekend is an opportunity for all the players that come up from the Inkosi Super Cup. If you place first or second in that league, and or if you find yourself 7th or 8th at the very bottom 2 in the Umzansi Esports League, you have an opportunity to either retain your place or to find yourself being promoted. And the reason why it's so important that Darth Mayhem did this is he found himself being relegated in the last season. He was one of the players that came up into season 3 from season 2 of the Inkosi Super Cup. He promoted himself into the 3rd season of the Umzansi Esports League. And not only did he have a very difficult time there, but he found himself having the historically worst season we've ever had from any given player in the Umzansi Esports League. It was really difficult. It was really rough. To be fair to Darth Mayhem, though, that was the season where I think everyone would agree the most amounts of players leveled up. The level of FIFA raised towards an incredible level that nobody else could have really predicted beforehand. Darth Mayhem unfortunately found himself at the receiving end of a lot of amazing players. However, the fact that he dropped down and he didn't allow himself to stay down, right? He used the experience that he'd gained from the Umzansi Esports League to come back up through the ranks, place very highly in the Inkosi Super Cup, and then beat out. Of course, it might have been a default loss, but honestly, the way that things might have were looking for him in the previous season, how things were looking for him in the Inkosi Super Cup, and how things were looking for Atibira, Darth Mayhem would probably have favored himself coming into the matchup anyway. And now that he's back, he can demonstrate that the fact that he was dropped down wasn't because he was bad, but simply because he was just worse than the best. And being worse than the best isn't really a bad thing against you. And now we can use the time that he spent away from the Umzansi Esports League, demonstrating that he's learned those lessons, use the experience he's gained in that league to now come back a much stronger player. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to be doing in the 5th season of the Umzansi Esports League, because he's a person who is not going to be coming into this new and fresh-eyed, right? He has this experience. He understands what kind of contest he's getting himself into, and thus he'll be better prepared to actually bring it to the top shelf competition. And we've seen what can happen when these Inkosi Super Cup players find themselves able to hang with the best. Young Savage won an entire tournament. Right now, Bobo Beast is in the playoffs. Both of them have came up from the Inkosi Super Cup. Darth Mayhem suddenly might find himself now, though having one bad season, no, we don't know where his future might end up, and he might find himself therefore in the playoffs come to season 5. So lovely and wonderful always to see a returning player, somebody who refuses to be down and out, always trying to fight the good fights and get himself back up to the top.
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, with Boba Beast currently in the semifinals from the Inkosi Super Cup, of course, I feel like this season has just been the season of Inkosi players really rising to the top. So that is basically the breakdown what we're looking at with Darth Mayhem and Antibira. So Darth Mayhem already secured a spot in the next season. We turn our attention now to Mobizilla and RukzaTheRuler, who is the current match that we're looking at and is currently happening. Of course, as mentioned, unfortunately, the player feeds are a little bit too, unstable, so we can't really be watching them. But the match is going on, and we will know shortly who is the victor and who is going to take the last spot in the Umzansi Esports League Season 5 as a new or potentially returning player. Tendo, break it down for us here, of course. Mobizilla versus RukzaTheRuler. how are we thinking? I mean, especially, coming through for Moby, how has the season been? How is this looking? What are you feeling like this altercation should actually end up being?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of an interesting one. I think Moby has, from season three, we saw Moby come and burst into life towards that end of the season. He was starting to pick up on how everybody was starting to play, and he really started to develop into his play style. Come season four, everything just seems to crumble. Everything is shaken. There's a couple, of mismatches that he can't attend, and then everything just kind of spirals out of control for him. Ends up in this relegation position, and now he has to go against Rukza, who has been in this position as well, right? Last season was in a relegation battle of his own, lost that battle, and now coming back to try and claim it. So it's a bit of an interesting parable that's happening here, right? You have the top, that top bracket where we have, Darth coming back into the league, which was a similar thing that happened in the lost split. Where we saw one of the players retain a position. So is this going to be the match where maybe, Moby does retain his position and he is that staple player of the Umzansi Esports League that's going to come back, try to give it his best shot, right? After seeing Ati, exit the league. It's going to be quite interesting to see exactly what is going to happen. And I mean, yeah, tough season for Moby, as you can see, as it stands over there. Almost, I think, actually the worst goal difference in the league. That speaks volumes in its own way, right? So it's going to be interesting. I think maybe Moby has a little bit more experience. He was playing against top dogs than Rukza, so that might carry him through this, battle that he's faced with. So I just hope, for his sake, he's tightened up a lot of his defensive areas, because that was a lot of things that were a big struggle for him. His defense was just crumbling. As soon as one goal went through, it started, raining, it was pouring, and hopefully he's, patched up those holes with a couple of seals of his own to just retain himself and come inside this fixture with a lot of composure. So yeah, edge of the seat, because I think Moby is one of my favorite players, I think, in the league as well, right? So dynamic, doesn't really give up, but it hasn't been a good season. We'll hope that everything goes well in this relegation match for him, that he'll bounce back into it. And maybe you will have an OG season 3 lineup, right? Because Darth's back, then you'll have Moby in it as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that league shapes up again for the 5th edition.
A lot of ifs, a lot of maybes. Of course, we're going to be waiting for those scores to come through. In the meantime, we did take a look at those standings, and we can actually talk a little bit more about the finals coming up next weekend. Of course, there's some insane fixtures that are waiting for us next weekend. I mean, first off, we've got Masoom versus Bobo Beast as one of your first matches. Then we've got the Beast Bianchi versus Divac. So, okay, let's break it down for the first one. Masoom versus Bobo Beast. Slay, on to you. What are you thinking?
Masoom versus Bobo Beast, right? It's a very interesting clash in this particular situation, because Masoom has been out and out the best FIFA player right now in the league. And he's just, when he's on the pitch, right, it legitimately seems magical, because there's a lot of weaknesses that we've spoken a lot about, right, in regards to Masoom's game. He can take time to get really on the ball. He can sometimes be vulnerable towards counterattacks. Opponents who are able to exploit the defensive aspects of his game can really open him up. But all of those weaknesses, none of them have really come into play with how his season has gone this go around. And he's been, outside of that 1 week where we saw the Beast Bianchi get 2 default wins and an amazing stomp in one day, right? If that doesn't happen for the Beast Bianchi, Masoom is very far up on that table, right? He's still at the top right now, which is really scary that he's got number 1 just with consistent performances. He didn't get really any forfeits for himself. He won every single matchup the hard way, and he did that the difficult way. On the other side, though, we have the Bobo Beast, who is the definitive epitome of what an underdog looks like. I mean, Young Savage, we spoke about last season, who seemed like an underdog, but we could see some of the shades of his greatness building up. He'd already been signed by Goliath Gaming, already had done really well in Inkosi Super Cup and other tournaments. So already the alert was out there that, hey, this is somebody to watch out for the future. But Bobo Beast has just been quietly doing his thing. He had to come back from escaping the relegation battle. He comes back, stays in the league, and not just stays in the league, but demonstrates that the experience he had of a difficult season, he uses it to make himself stronger, to improve. Players that he was unable to deal with beforehand, he's dealing with properly now. Last season, he beat the Beast Bianchi. It seemed like a fluke. Then he comes again, takes on the Beast again, and says, no, this wasn't a fluke, right? I'm actually this guy. I'm actually out here. I'm actually capable of playing this FIFA game at this high level. I haven't wasted the last few months of experience that I've gained. So we basically have a situation in this matchup where we have what is currently the titan of the game in Masum, looking the best out of everyone right now, versus somebody who is undoubtedly the person who has improved the most, grinded the most. And I would definitely say that, like, in terms of the level up of understanding of FIFA as a game, he's gained the most out of it in these last few months. And that can often be the difference maker, right? For especially very talented players like this, that can be the difference between winning the entire tournament and not, right? You just need the one game, because now we're down. We're not in the situation where we have double elimination or you have another chance in the season. It's one series, it's one game. And sometimes the favored person in that situation, the person who has more information about them available, the person who has that target on their back, suddenly you're more vulnerable because there's more reason to beat you than vice versa. And somebody like Bobo Beast has all the reason in the world to prove that he's not just an Inkosi Super Cup upstart, but he actually belongs in the Umzansi Esports League and is capable of challenging for titles themselves.
Well, with that, we can actually take a look at the results from the game that was happening today and see who is the last person to be grabbing a spot in the next season of the Umzansi Esports League Season 5. Here it is. As we take a look at it,
Oh
it
my
will
gosh.
be RukzaTheRuler
wow.
to take that final spot alongside Darth Mayhem. Tendo, what we thinking?
I mean, it's basically Inkosi domination at this point, right? You know, both players that were inside the Umzansi Esports League go and get knocked down. And I mean, if you look at how the season was going for both of them, it's expected. You know, I think the momentum was definitely in favor of both teams. Obviously, you know, Darth kind of got that easy buy into this one, but Rukza, you have to give it to him. You know, like I said, lost relegation battle, didn't come up on top. This time comes up on top. And it's kind of like, you know, this testament, that Bobo Beast testament of just coming in and grinding it out until you can be the very best, right? Because if you look at that matchup, Moby had all the utility in his, you know, pocket to come up on top and retain his position inside this league. But clearly, Rukza was here. He was ready. And now look what's happening. Season next is going to be quite interesting, I think, right? Because that's going to shake things up even more and more, because there's just now more, you know, Inkosi players that keep getting added into the mix of things. And they will always retain, I think, the top dogs in the league, right? The Beast Bianchis, the Masums, the Defaults. They'll be there, right? The Young Savages. But now we keep getting these other players that keep adding this, you know, extra flair and excitement into the game, right? So going to be very interesting to see what happens coming next season. So Darth and Rukza, very big congratulations for them, you know, getting promoted.
Absolutely. Massive congratulations to them for joining us in the Umzansi Esports League Season 5. But that is basically our FIFA podcast, essentially, coming to a close. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to Snare and Tendo for giving us some beautiful insight into not only this season, but also the upcoming season and how that is going to be shifting. Better make sure that you stay tuned. Of course, there is still many maps for PUBG Mobile coming up and a lot of action as a result. And of course, next weekend, the finals for the Umzansi Esports League Season 4 will be taking place with those four players that we were talking about earlier, going head to head to see who's going to be the champion of Season 4. For the time being, we're going to go to a short break, but when we come back, still PUBG Mobile. Stay with us. Welcome everyone to the promotion relegation games for the Umzansi Esports League Season 4. Of course, today is the last day that any player, including any title, could potentially get themselves a slot in the next season of the Umzansi Esports League. And we are on to the PUBG mobile segment. Now, what we will be looking at today is the top 8 from Friday's games versus the bottom 8 from yesterday's games. And of course, there's only 8 slots available, so 16 teams, but half of them will unfortunately have to say goodbye to their Umzansi Esports League journey. Speaking about today, let's take a look at that schedule to remind you about what you should be waiting for. Of course, it is not 3 maps. It's a little bit longer than that. It is a grinder for a reason. We've got 4 maps today, starting with Erangel and ending with Erangle. So a nice little cycle to start with, and the teams, they have their work cut out for them. Let's actually take a look at that bracket so we can break down for you what exactly has been happening this weekend. Of course, it's a little bit different. Patchy, by now, do you think you're comfortable enough to explain this bracket?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit confusing in the beginning, but I mean, it makes sense now, especially now that we're in the final day. We know that the teams that won from the games on Friday and the teams that lost from the games yesterday are going to be going up against one another in the games today. And so, I mean, that's pretty simple, right? Don't have to explain anything more. We've passed everything else, so this is where we are now, and that's what's happening.
Fair. But for anyone who is interested, this is generally the bracket we look at when we talk about our promotion relegation games. So it's quite a grinder. It's a gauntlet and a half. The teams are really put to the test so we can refine the best of the best for the next season of the Umzansi Esports League. And speaking of the Umzansi Esports League, we actually do have the finals of Season 4 happening next weekend. So if you want to know who's going to be the champions for this previous season, then you best come tune in, same time, same place. On to today's teams. We have 2 teams, of course, to look at. So let's actually take a look at those introductions as it stands. So here are the Group A squads, and then, of course, we've also got the Group B squads. So now Group A are the teams from Friday that managed to get into those top 8 slots to move over to today's games. As you can see, quite a few Inkosi teams. So Ira, please take us through it.
Ooh, we got MZR Esports, Chaos, Mad Clan, HORZ Esports, your killer is, and that is gonna wrap up the Inkosi teams coming up from Group A. A really successful, interesting Friday they had. Black Crystal, Comfy, and Black Clover gonna be the Umzansi teams. Now, Comfy 6 clutched up their very last game number 4 to make it into today's qualifiers. If they play on such a risky gameplay, then we'll definitely won't be seeing them in the promotion side of things. And yeah, it was very much interesting to see the teams sort of clutch up their situations. Like Mad Clan and Chaos, for instance, they stood out the most for me. They were the consistent in game 1, 2. However, towards 3, they just sort of died out quite drastically over there. But game 4, they still brought it back, brought in some points, and then it was your killer is as well to clutch up some games over there on Friday. And it was a very interesting Group A coming out from them. But Group B, which I'm sure Patchy will take you through it.
Absolutely. Let's go take a look at those Group B squads because they are the unfortunate losers from yesterday's games, but it means they still have an opportunity because they did so well throughout their respective seasons. So, Patchy, here, take us through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got a number of teams from our Umzansi in the past season, of course, weren't able to make it up into the finals, which is why they find themselves here, and they also weren't able to get those guaranteed slots yesterday. So now they're here to fight in the end of the grind to see who is going to be able to make it out and secure those last few slots. As you mentioned, we've got 16 teams. Here's 8 of them. Only 8 in total will be able to make it out. So Group B is consisting of Solo, Young Thunder, UAE Fear, Raptors AF. We've got Rain from Hell, TenX Esports, and Rainbow Six Madagascar. Of these teams, I do have to say that I'm not exactly sure who is going to be dominating this group. I think UAE has a lot of potential. I've seen them do quite well so far. Unfortunately, weren't able to make it up, but it is what it is. And I think out of these teams, there, in fact, I mean, I was going to say these teams are evenly matched, but I mean, I think I could say the same for most of the groups that we've had so far. This whole weekend, the teams have been relatively well matched, and ultimately these bursts, these games that we've been having, this grinder has really just been sifting out bit by bit. And Sproxy actually pointed it out yesterday. Even the games that we've had this weekend, some of the deciding numbers are separated by like a single point. So it really, really is close. And ultimately, we're just trying to see who is the best of the best to make it up into the next season.
Of course, and by doing so, they need to focus on getting as many points as possible in actually in all 4 of the games today, but you have to take it one game at a time. And of course, that is by focusing on your placement and your kill points. So, of course, placements can only take you so far, up to 15 maximum points awarded for your best placement. And then, of course, per kill, you get an extra point, which really has tended to make the difference for a lot of these teams. And what's interesting to me is, out of the 16 teams we're looking at today, we actually have a perfect split of Inkosi and Umzansi teams, 8 apiece split between the 2 groups. So this is as fair of a fight that we've seen this weekend as opposed to, some of the other days. But who's going to be going through? That is not yet determined. Of course, we actually have seen quite a few Inkosi teams already be promoted into the next season, so I would not be surprised if we see that happen again today. Speaking about today, Patchy, going through to Erangel, you've seen the teams now, you have a fair idea of what we should be expecting, because all of these teams have played at least once this weekend, and of course you've been here for all of the games, just like I have. So who are you thinking? Who is standing out to you amongst some of the names that you've already mentioned?
That is a difficult one. I'm talking about how these teams are really close. It's tough to say who's going to actually be the standout team when it comes down to it, because everyone's been. I mean, they've been working hard. Let's be real here. Even the teams that haven't been able to make it so far have still been putting in the work in, and that's evidenced in the fact that they're still trying. They're still having so close, like that cutoff point, you pointed it out, 1 point difference between the one page and the other page. That just shows you that the teams really are putting in the work. And so it's difficult to say who is really going to come out on top. I think a lot of the teams that were standing out from these groups this weekend have already promoted, which is no surprise. I mean, even yesterday, the Inkosi teams were being pointed out by Viper, and I was pointing out some of the Umzansi teams, and we've seen them kind of get promoted already. So, yeah, that's a tough question. I think I'll have to actually preview the first game before I come back to you on that one, just because I'd like to see who is keen today. Rather than trying to take an overall view of like the teams that we've seen so far, it really is about who's showing up today. So in the first game, it's going to give us a good idea of actually who's coming to play and who really is eager to get that promotion.
Nice avoidance of my question. Ira, from your side, I mean, you've seen these Inkosi teams play over the season, in the Inkosi Super Cup.
Yep.
Has there been any sort of strats that really caught your eye that, I know we've had in previous seasons, we've had upside down cars within the zone, and that's how the players were managing to sneak their way in. Has there been anything else like that, that's caught your eye? If so, please remember to tell us as we move into the game, because it does look like the plane is locked and loaded. So I'll have to wait until I ask you this. But let us know.
Looking at that Group B stages or Group B teams, right? You had Undisputed Africa in there, and I was very shocked to see them not qualify into that point of view over there. And it was just very tough to see them not do that, because they came out top of the leaderboard in Inkosi to not qualify. But we'll talk more about how their strategy is with Patchy over here. I'm going to let you be as proxy.
Gonna hand over to our casters to take you through the first game of the day. This is the Umzansi Esports League promotion relegation games for season 4 to potentially get themselves into season 5. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first map of today's games. It's Erangle. This is where we're going to start. This is where we're going to end. And already we have a very nice flight path going all the way from that northwestern position down towards Sanhok military base. So if we don't have any drops on that island, I'm going to be sad, because we have the easiest drops, the easiest opportunity to get in there and get some of those very nice, points for themselves. So yeah, we'll just hopefully have to wait and see if any of the teams do make their way down into that military base. It looks like we're going to see Undisputed AE go in that direction, maybe. It looks like they're going to the east, so we'll wait and see if we're going to award any patchy points there. But man, what is going on in George? Iro, look at this.
Oh, so
this looks
many
like a party.
teams. So many teams have landed over there, and that's gonna be questionable on what numbers are going to come out of that alive. But UAE usually go just outside from Malta, which we are going to be seeing them positioned over there. They're going to get those rotations in. You can already see Ace sort of scuff up. He's dropped. He found a vehicle though, and now making the rotation into farm. But the top corner, the northwest of the map, is just so contested, and you do already have HORZ Esports getting in and a knock or an elimination already onto the map. And oh, Patchy, I think this is the first game we'll ever have action off the bat to work with.
I have never seen so many teams drop dead into the George area. I mean, that is a lot of teams. There's at least like 5 or 6 teams in that area.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit tough for these teams. I think there's not much in the way of space first of all, but also, I mean, where do you get your equipment? You pick up some guns, maybe some bullets and some helmets, but I mean, ultimately you're not going to have that many meds. And you can see already a couple of damage has gone in towards end, and he doesn't really have any meds to heal up, which is putting him in a really tough spot. His teammates on the back end not really able to assist him. It hasn't really been much loot time, so they're really just forced into the thick of things straight off the bat. And any of these teams that decides to try and rotate is going to be susceptible to those shots coming out of the buildings. The quick pickups, the quick third parties and all that. It's going to be hugely, hugely problematic for the teams to try and rotate out. So they're kind of forced to make the fights unless they see a gap to just get into a vehicle and book it to the other side of the map.
Definitely. And there's End, unfortunately, getting knocked over here. And it's still question to how the rotations and split came in for Mad Clan, because, they played so well on the first day, even getting the winner chicken dinner in game number 1. But this time around, they already disengaged from the POI. Optimus and Todoroki, Prime, and them, they're all being very cautious as well with W key in this, but they don't have that intel we have when it comes down to actually knowing what's happening here with my clan. There's no one to be seen over here, and they're playing it cautious because, I mean, if you look at their numbers, only 3 of the squad is in the map, so they don't want to go and risk it for the biscuit here in this situation. They're going to play it passive out and wait for that bleed to come through, and there's still a kill point coming in for the team. And yeah, it is unfortunate for my clan to lose a team mate so early on over here. And you can still see up there in the northwest area, it's very much contested, and the players are going to stop making those rotations. My clan immediately out of that going to be making a rotation into the first zone pool. And what do you think about that zone pool, by the way?
Yeah, that zone is definitely not one that we've seen this weekend all too much. I mean, we had a south zone, we had a northeast zone, and we had a southwest zone as well. Now we've got the other direction, which is southeast. So the teams really have been thrown for a 360 loop here. They've gone across the whole map this weekend, all around. And now we end here on the side. And this particular zone is likely to end in a very difficult spot. I think usually when we see this zone on this side, it usually ends in the middle of nowhere, in like a field somewhere or something like that. And it really makes it tough for the teams to get the finishes and get things going for themselves. So yeah, it's looking like it might just be a really tough final zone. And I hope that sort of idea spurs these teams on a little bit to try and get some things going before it gets extra tough in the end game.
Definitely, and already HORZ Esports looking to be a cleaning service in the gameplay that we have our hands in, because the team's sort of coming in with so many, not so many, but only 2 eliminations so far for them, which is really good. I mean, we're still very early into the game, and they are controlling the off-spawn situations that we have found ourselves in.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this time. Just waiting and seeing if any more of these battles are going to come through, especially considering the fact that, we already had a few really difficult drops here and there. We had some crowding happening in towards Georgia, but the teams have mostly been able to stay alive for the time being. We got 16 teams still remaining, so nothing too crazy happening for everyone. And they know that there is a lot riding in the games today, especially the teams that lost yesterday. You know, they know a lot is on the line, and the teams that won on Friday, of course, will need to keep that spark going, to keep the energy moving forward, because we were literally talking about this the other day, how, you know, a single burst of games, a single burst of points isn't really enough. You got to be a little bit more consistent than that, and the energy for the teams on Friday has to be even more, because, you know, they got those wins, they worked hard for those wins on Friday, and now they need to work extra hard to keep that going and try and pick some more up here in today's games. Otherwise, you know, there's they can't see season 5. You know, it's done and dusted for them. So really gonna have to put the work in here, and it's just a lot on the line for all of the teams in the groups today. We've already had a look and seeing Mad moving up and trying to pick up some of the kills on towards Rainbow Six, and they're very low on HP here. They're in a little bit of a pickle, and in fact, it seems like they're surrounded as well. There's no chance that they escape this, and indeed, and confirm will come through, and Rainbow Six will be eliminated out of game number 1 by Mad, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. They're going to have to try and go back in to the next few games. We still have plenty of maps remaining. We've got 3 maps after this. Remember, this is a 4-map sequence here. We start on Erangel, we go to Sanhok, we go to Miramar, and we come all the way back to Erangel to finish things off. So nothing too hectic. It is going to be an unfortunate loss, no points for them, but they can come back swinging in the next few maps. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with them. For now, we are taking a look at those teams starting to move their way into the zone, which they are currently doing. No one is deciding to linger in the blue too long, which is good to see. Everyone's quick on their feet for now, making their way inside a zone. However, that does mean that these teams will remain in close proximity, and that does mean that we will be seeing some fighting happening momentarily. Although I don't expect it to be anything too serious. These teams know what's on the line, they know what's at stake, so they're going to try and play this one as cautious and as smart as they can. Hopefully, we'll see somebody stepping up, because as Proxy asked me the question, which team do I think is going to be stepping it up here and really showing what they've got for us in the games today. And I think we'll see very shortly which teams start to pop up on the forefront of that particular answer, and see who is actually the most eager to get these wins in. I can see a lot of teams now moving in from the west as that zone does shift up. And our friend Hosea is finding some of those long-range shots into some of those rotating players. So already we're seeing a few picks here and there as they try and capture those rotating players, try and keep an eye on the surrounding area to see what is going on. Because right now all the teams have to get a move on into the zone and get themselves into a place of safety as soon as they can. Right now, a lot of teams are working with very little cover. So they're going to have to really try and get out of there. You can see Minato trying to find a few hits, but the rotation from Rain from Hell is good. They will be able to escape that particular position. Skull and Neon will be on their way into safety and into the zone to find themselves a spot as we move forward. It's going to be really important.
Well, a good rotation nonetheless coming out from the team here from Rain from Hell. So they just getting in more closer to Malta, which is a good play you want to find yourself in. There's still a couple of teams who still need to make the rotation into the zone over here, and which seems to be very easy. Everyone does have their vehicles. Mad Clan still in this one, and interesting to see this sort of come into play. The next sort of plays that need to happen for most of these guys is just trying to survive, trying to get the better positioning so that they can make their way into the next zones and so forth. But that RNG just can't always be favored. HORZ Esports finding themselves in a predicament against Solo Esports over here, where they've now managed to actually get one knock onto their bodies, onto their teammates. So HORZ needs to really clutch up in this instance, and they do clutch up in the sense of getting Falcon back on his feet. Yujiro and Samurai in the open playing fields over here. You can see Yujiro trying to take a couple shots into the rotation for HORZ when they're building up the formations, but Sabir not allowing them to stay alive in this one, and that's an open field play for them, and they get sort of knocked.
Yeah, right now Ujira and the rest of Solo under a little bit of pressure. It looks like they have some problems waiting ahead of them, and the name of those problems are multiple at this point. As you can see, UAE actually going to pick those up instead of HORZ, although HORZ was pushing up right past them. So unfortunately, that elimination will come through. But now HORZ pushing up onto the hill line to see if they can spot out any of those players and maybe get some picks on that direction. You can see some teams up in the north are making their way down across that line, but the most of the teams are centered around Shelter and Malta, of course, down in towards the south of that mainland. And it looks like this zone is really hard shifting to the east, and that's going to force them into some interesting positions. I'm actually quite curious to see where the next zone is going to drop because, yeah, right now there's still a couple of good spots left in the zone. But I still think it's going to become a tough final zone here for these teams. So they got to keep their eyes peeled for that one. Hosea Fur going to make a quick dash past the team there from HORZ. We'll see if he can stay alive. No, it looks like he has exposed himself a little bit too much. And Upshur is going to be just finding those hits one after one after one and just looking for the explosion on the vehicle. We'll find it and we'll pick up that elimination as well.
HORZ Esports is really showing up to the party here. I mean, 3 eliminations, and they're just a very defensive and offensive at the same time, playing it in a good play for them. With their positionings and skill displayed is just amazing to see how they are. I'm wondering if they can keep up this consistency when, you know, it's so clustered as we are seeing right now, as everyone is trying to rotate their way into Malta, and with half of that or quarter of that zone down on the south, there's just not that much room for the players because it is on waterland over here. UAE getting an elimination onto Rain, Neon, and hopefully that is going to be good from them. Now you can also just see Chaos, Manito making the rotations in the outskirts over there. August trying to look at the teams coming forth for them, but nothing really connecting, nothing too serious. Monato in a tough position. I wonder if his teams has his teammates died, or is he just rotating ahead scouting?
Yeah, it looks like the team is a little bit disheveled here, and Jin is going to be taking a bit of the opportunity there. In the kill feed, Minato does get taken down. Now Jin is looking for the rest of the team that seems to be scattered just off in the distance, trying to pick up the rest of those kills. So yeah, unfortunately, the team did seem to be a bit scattered there, not together, not able to really put up much of a fight, going for the quick rotations, but getting caught out because of the sheer volume of players in the area. It's very difficult to move through a position that's already occupied by a number of teams, and especially in this instance where throughout most of this game there's been quite a concentration of teams in the area. It's very, very difficult to get the rotations through, and you can see with that zone shift, as you were talking about, you know, it looks a little bit difficult with quite a bit of water towards the south. And it's going to force everyone up against that coastline, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what it does mean is that the teams are going to be making that frantic dash down to the coast to try and eliminate as many angles as possible. And you can see that that has already started to happen. A lot of teams trying to get down in towards Malta and that coast. And the rest of the teams that are not able to make it, they're just trying to get themselves inside zone for the time being and maybe pick up a safe spot. The real question is, how much more difficult is this zone going to get? Because if it keeps shifting south, then the teams are going to be forced to back up against that coastline, and that is a difficult spot to be in.
You have to love how the positioning has come into play, because for the guys that did do the early rotation, they have the advantage here, and they can continue having the advantage if it does pull south.
Yeah, if it does pull south, there are some teams that are in a pretty good position to respond to that, and they will certainly like that. But for the rest of the teams, I think they'll be a little bit disappointed. So there it is. The zone shift will go slightly up towards the north, so they won't be backed against the coastline. That's a great start, at least. But they are going to start running out of defensible positions. As you can see, down towards the south in Malta is the only real spot where there are a number of defensible positions. The rest of them are starting to run out across the rest of the map. So this could still be a very difficult finish for these teams. It's already been a bit of a tough game for everyone, but they've managed to keep themselves alive for this long, which is very impressive. 15 teams still on the board. Now they're having a little bit of a tussle here in Malta. We'll see, can these teams endure what is about to come?
While Comfy definitely not enduring that, you know, squeak going down, they can potentially still get the revive in that play, because I did not see a confirmation come in action just yet, and there goes the revive definitely onto Squeak. So Comfy and them could be clutching up their game number one in this position, and let's see exactly what happens over there. MZR setting up base on height as well, so they do got a building with a double story, and they're in a good position to actually just scout around and see exactly what the next sort of plays could potentially come out from this one over here. You do got Frieza, who's all alone and hoping to be alone for the next couple zones over here to try pulling some points. And look at Yo Killer is anonymous, trying to rotate over here. He's on a smither of HP, and he does maybe potentially get out of this one, but no, as I say that, he does get knocked, and you see Clutcher putting himself out there to just to try get this confirmation, and he will do so indeed. Now Clutcher getting in a kill point for the team, now on 2 kills as it stands right here. And some of these teams are being active, but we've only have lost a true team wipe on one squad as we are down to 43 members. A lot of these guys have lost some teammates. They're down to solo duos, and they're making rotations to try live in the hopes to qualify here today, guys, for the Umzansi, which is not going to be an easy task, seeing that these guys are going into such endgame and there are still so many players alive, and that means the residence that is available for these guys are already sold out, already booked out, and I can only imagine what is the remaining rotations going to be, because it looks like it's going to pull more direct into Malta, or just above Malta over there, where we see HORZ Esports, TenX, and Fear. The rotations that are going to be displayed or come into action are just going to be so difficult here, Patchy.
Yeah, certainly will be, and you can see things are getting a little bit flustered, especially for those solo players. It's getting a little bit difficult to stay alive. Getting bloodied up quite a lot, down to 10 HP, has to duck inside the buildings to stay alive, and this is going to be the theme of the rest of the game. These teams are stalemated enough that no one has really lost the grip just yet. Some of the teams are, as you mentioned, down to a couple of players, but I mean, for the most part, most of these teams are still in the game. We're 4 zones deep, heading in towards zone number 5, and then that's quite impressive. You know, these teams are just staying alive here, and it's causing a little bit of a problem, actually, because soon we're about to head into zone number 5, and that's when we start entering the end game. And, well, at that point, if you're running out of space to that extent and all of these teams are still remaining, that means there's going to be a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of fighting. Teams are going to get tripped up. They're going to make mistakes as they try and rotate in. We've already seen a couple of those happening, and now it's going to get a whole lot worse, because that space is definitely going to be running out quite quickly.
And we see the next zone sort of form up, and it is sort of correct to what I'm saying. It's moving more upwards, and that part of the zone already had teams in there. So the likes of MZR, Comfy, and them are making the rotations, which seems to be gonna be on foot, because I don't see that much vehicles in and around those POI over here. For MZR, they've parked quite successfully just outside over there in the building, and then they can make the rotations right here. But it's still not gonna be easy. We just saw Your Killer is anonymous on the rotation with the vehicle, and even he got beamed on the rotation over there. So for MCR or any of these teams making a rotation from here into the next zone, it's going to be questionably hard. And for Frieza, man, he's just hoping that nobody gets to tailgate him or even see exactly how he's going to be getting out of that position, because it does look like he is the only solo player for the squad to try carry in those placement points. And I can tell you, the next play and decision makings are just not going to be easy, as we see a little bit of an oopsie coming out from Taz from UAE, as he does Molotov himself and burn himself to knock. And actually, you see HORZ pick up that confirmation onto UAE. Here's True from Comfy trying to make the rotation, going back into the zone because he's being targeted. He has the sights aimed at him, so it's not going to be an easy rotation for him.
Yeah, and that is true for just about everyone at the moment. You can see that kill feed getting absolutely insane with all the kills that are coming through. It looks like everyone is looking for a piece of the pie, but only one team is going to be able to find that chicken dinner at the end of the day. Inspector getting eliminated right on our screen as Rain from Hell now gets a move on. They have to push past Comfy right up ahead of them, so already they're running into a difficult opponent to try and stay alive here. Argus getting taken down now as Squeak and the rest of the crew do manage to put up a considerable defense. Now the rotation coming through from a lot of teams. There's the elimination, getting just taken straight out there. Squeak going to take Argus out, and the rest of Rain from Hell gets eliminated, and now That is BC off on the one side. They're getting absolutely hammered as well as Comfy turn their attention in that direction. Shroud has managed to make the rotate up as a Lone Ranger into the middle of the chaos, trying to stay alive with all this crossfire going on. Everyone is trying to find a little smidgen of cover to try and stay alive. But things are not getting any easier for these teams. They're popping the smoke for a little bit of that vision obscuring. But is that going to be enough at this point? These teams are keen for the chicken. We've got 11 teams remaining, but those numbers are about to go down considerably as we move from Zone 5 to Zone 6, and things get even smaller. Who is going to have the favor of the zone right now? We're about to find out, and it actually shifts up towards the northwest. So all of these teams are going to have to rotate once again, and it's going to be more chaos.
Yeah, and you can already see here for Comfy, chaos indeed as Black Clover now takes down Crazy. Crazy looking to try get in some cover with the smoke screen, but can they survive this one over here? I doubt it, because the action is just being presented over here. But Vibe catching himself on, you know, unguarded, as he does get eliminated from the back over there from YT. So that's just going to be unfortunate. And that somehow releases the pressure from Black Clover onto Comfy. Maybe so that they need to focus on the heals, focus in the forestry that we do have ahead of us. A lot of cover to be made over there. MZR are just trying to also get involved with their shots, trying to get in the damage and hopefully some team kills as well. As you do look at that, however, they are sitting on 6 eliminations. So even if they do get taken out now, at least they do have some points on the board, and you can see Comfy trying to come in from behind, but it's just not working out for them as Crazy goes down. G4K or YT is just taking on all the third parties from this hill and forestry. I mean, they've gotten the high position to do so and aim their sights down onto the enemies who are trying to make the rotations over there.
Yeah, right now things are looking absolutely treacherous. Even though this is not a field, it is still just a little bit of a forest. There's some rocks, there's some trees, and these teams don't have much else to play around. You can see the rotations coming in from MZR now as they try and push forward. But man, they're up against a whole lot of difficult opponents up the hillside. They've got the disadvantage just basically at every single point. And you can see they're getting eliminated left, right, and center. They just cannot account for all those angles, cannot account for all the damage that is currently being sent in their direction. Bloody very low on HP, just trying to crawl around there, trying to stay alive. Shura just off to the side, trying to put some hits in, and so is Bloody. They're finding a few bits of damage through the smoke. A little bit of assist coming through there, but they do manage to find those kills and just barely staying alive. Black Clover and Black Crystal are still out here on the map. We got 6 teams remaining, but the zone's about to shift up again. Things are about to get even more difficult if it wasn't difficult enough for these teams. Everyone's just skirting the outskirts of the zone, but they're going to be forced closer together, and they're slowly running out of space. And there's some brilliant nade work coming in. Hero getting some hero plays in there and just slam dunking some of those players right out into that lobby. Things are heating up that much more now. 5 teams remaining.
Yeah, and just like that, we are down to the final moment that we have here on our hands in the game number 1 of the promotion relegation. It's the final time to actually grab your spot in the Umzansi, and you can see YT do have somewhat of an advantage, seeing that they've done the damage. They're confident. Look at that, 10 kills on the board for game number 1. Even if they do get eliminated, that is kill points that I'm pretty sure no other team currently has. And I say that, but MZR is actually chilling on 13. So even though they've been a trio for half of this map that they've lost Nova very early on, they've somehow still dominated, still gotten the kill points on this map over here. Bloody and Shura definitely making sure that they come through with a lot of points. And you look up over there and you see RPT Audacity just chilling as a solo. So he's happy that he's found himself in that position. But the gunfire is going back and forth between Logic and him, and Logic does win that one-on-one battle. And TenX Esports against YT could potentially come and break out over here. MZR praying that that actually happens, because the second place position in from the duo will be superb. But Snake Eyes, he turns his POV to them. He takes down Shura, and it's now down to Bloody. Bloody just sort of crawling his way behind the trees, trying to get in the cover, and he's healing up, trying to make sure that he has somewhat of a capability to even grab second place, while YT and TenX are taking on the battle.
Yeah, it is incredible to watch some of these players from MZR just staying alive, man. And like, I really did not expect them to stay alive this long. Bloody, especially, was in such a difficult position a few minutes ago, but still alive and managed to get some really good kills through the smoke there. Now, however, in a bit of a difficult position. TenX now getting assaulted. They were in an okay spot, but Young Thunder's just moving straight up there, out for blood, and they're getting it. They're laying down the law. They're finding the kills. They're finding the knocks. No problem for them. Rix basically dead at this point. I think literally 0.5 HP left, just coming back from the brink of death. But there's Bipolar getting taken out, and Rick's not in the greatest spot. And you can see that Young Thunder can see that chicken dinner right in front of them. All they got to do is reach out and grab it. But their opponent is going to be Bloody. Has been pretty good at staying alive and pretty good at getting these kills through the smoke. There goes a nade trying to find some little bits of damage here, but ultimately they're just going to roll straight up on to this position and go in for the inevitable kill. I don't think we're going to be seeing a 1v4 here. I think this is a secured Young Thunder victory, and it is. They're going to come away with the chicken dinner for game number 1, and well, a pretty good number of kills, if I do say so.
15 eliminations on the board, and they played that so successfully from the time they looked down onto, you know, the terrain where they had the advantage in terms of height, gotten so many eliminations onto Black Clover. MZR, however, like you mentioned, they somehow just slithered their way through to the very end, and I don't even know how, as a trio, they managed to grab that much eliminations. Bloody, however, we have to admire how he managed to come through with a second place position, and then TenX Esports just had no chance going up against Young Thunder as they took them out within an instance.
Absolute congratulations to Young Thunder. And I mean, it's been a while since we've seen that Young Thunder, come through to the top to grab a winner with a chicken dinner. And of course, as one would expect, if you've been following Young Thunder, then you would know the name Snake Eyes, picking up 9 eliminations, 9 kills in that single map for their respective team. My goodness gracious, absolutely amazing gameplay from them. Patchy, what did you think about that game?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a stalemate for most of the game. You know, even though we had such an incredibly clustered hot drop up in George, there wasn't actually as much killing as I thought there was going to be. You know, I really expected things to get going super quickly and just chaos all the. But the teams, they were so focused on staying alive and so focused on making sure that, like, we need the points, we need to stay alive as long as possible. We need to try and not get killed right now, because otherwise we go home with nothing. And every single game counts, every point counts. So they were just keeping to themselves. They were trying to stay alive. They were getting themselves out, moved away. Didn't really get taken down too quickly. So a lot of the teams still remaining by the time we had zone number 5, which is of course the beginning of the end game as we moved to 6 and 7. And we still had plenty of teams remaining, and so things got really difficult at the end. But it did actually bring out the best in a couple of players and teams, that their performances kind of boosted up under pressure. For instance, we saw Bloody doing really well. I thought they were going to get eliminated pretty much as soon as they moved to the bottom of that hill, but actually they were able to stay alive and get some eliminations through the smoke while they were, at it. And then, of course, Bloody was able to sneak it up into that second place. So, I mean, they were able to perform under pressure, stay alive, and at the end of the day, it's the points that count. So there it is. And of course, when it comes to Young Thunder, obviously you have to give credit where it's due. They were able to duplicate their chicken dinner with the kills, and that's where you just tip the hat and say that's exactly what we're looking for in a team to compete in Umzansi. And that is exactly the standard that they're producing here. And of course, it's no surprise. I mean, definitely have to come into the conversation. But the real question, once again, is always going to be consistency, because it's all great and good that you drop a 30 bomb, and that's fantastic. But if you can't keep a decent score for every game, then you're going to fall off. But I think if anyone could do it, Young Thunder could probably pull something off yet this fine day.
Those 30 points definitely would convince me otherwise. I mean, 15 placement kills, 15 kills, honestly. Picking up such an explosive game for the first game of the last day of our promotion relegation games. They definitely came here to make a statement. Now, obviously on this page, these are essentially our leaderboard, as it was only the first game. So at the end of the day, if you find yourself on this last page, then unfortunately your Umzansi Esports League story comes to an end here. So hopefully for these teams finding themselves on this page for now, we'll be picking up some points to climb that leaderboard, because as you can imagine, every single player and team that is here playing this weekend wants a spot in the next season of the Umzansi Esports League Season 5. Ira, from your side, how did you find those games? I mean, first game of the day for them. You think it was a pretty strong one?
It was indeed. I'll talk about it while we admire this MVP coming out from Snake Eyes. 9 kills and 1,042 damage. That was spectacular. But the games were very much complicated. I mean, we went into 5th zone with 12 teams alive, if I'm not mistaken. That is literally when placement starts to count in. And we look at a UAE where they're on their second page with 5 kills, 0 placement points. If things had gone in their favor, we could have seen the undisputed Africa esports that we get to see in the Inkosi weeks, that they grinded, that they showed up to the party, the competition, and so forth. For MZR, congratulations to how they played it out. Shocking experiences. And I like what Patchy says, these pressured moments actually brought the best out of some of these teams, and we actually got to witness that. And it was amazing to see Young Thunder take advantage of their positioning, looking down, making sure that they took out as much eliminations. And we could see those players like Black Clover, Comfy, MZR all in a tough position where they just kept getting beamed, whether it was a third party or whether it was in a circle of beams that were in place. So like Black Crystal onto Comfy, and then Black Crystal had to turn their back in. And then when they do so, MZR is still also there to give in the trouble, to give in the mess. And then on that rotation, MZR still somehow managed to get into, like we mentioned, a second place. So I'm happy that these things sort of come into play and we get to witness it. It's just game number 1. What can Sanhok, Miramar, and game number 4 of Erangel have for us to offer? It's going to be an amazing evening.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So please, everyone watching at home, make sure you stay in your seats. We're going to go to a short break, but of course, when you come back, still plenty of action left to go through. So we'll be right back in a little while. Welcome back, everyone, to the promotion relegation games for the Umzansi Esports League Season 4. Now, first game done and dusted, so we have an idea of what the leaderboard is looking like because we only have one map to, compare to. And as you mentioned, if you find yourself on that last page on the leaderboard at the end of today, then unfortunately your Umzansi Esports journey will come to a close. But of course, 3 more maps left, so 3 more opportunities for these teams to pick up those points. And Patchy, from your side, what are some of the things that you saw that you think they really need to just kind of change up going into Sanhok?
I really think a lot of teams actually should take the opportunity of the early game, um, especially going forward into Sanhok. I think game number one kind of showcased the idea that the teams were a little bit disheveled, kind of disorganized. It's the first game in the groups. You kind of want to go toe to toe, but you're not too sure how your opponents play, and then suddenly everyone's dropping George, and then no one fights. I don't know. I feel like there's opportunity in that particular spot, and I know a lot of teams don't want to risk it. They're trying to play safe, play smart, but I really think that if you're gonna prove yourself, now is the time. It's like you don't really have time to wait. You don't have time to play safe, really. Actually, at the end of the day, every game that we play, we get closer to that cutoff, and if you're not getting the points in now, there's a huge problem. And the only way you're going to get up there is to find the points and find them now. You can't wait for the next game because there's no tomorrow. It's literally the game's today. That's it. Once it's done, it's done. And as you mentioned, your season 5 journey for Umzansi, your aspirations to get in there, they'll come to an end. You're going to have to go back into Inkosi and try for the rest of the season to qualify. And for a lot of these teams, they don't want to get into that, and the mentality of fear of getting relegated is probably what's going to get them relegated at the end of the day. Because I've seen these teams play, I've seen what they can do, and I feel like they are capable of getting things done. They're capable of getting out there in the first setup phases and getting things done. I mean, that George area should have been a battle zone from the beginning. Yes, I understand that there was a lacking of meds and a lacking of equipment, but I've seen these guys do way more with way less. So I feel like it's not really it's not what we can see out of these. It's not their performance at their maximum. And right now, what we need is the performance at a maximum from these teams. Otherwise, it's it.
So if we break it down, of course, they have 3 more maps this evening, and as you mentioned, that it's only those 3 more maps. If they don't get the points that they need to in those 3 maps, then goodbye. And then unfortunately, that's it. That's done, dusted, because we need the best of the best in Africa moving on to the Umzansi Esports League. That's how it's always been and it's how it always will be. There's a reason we call it the grinder. It truly refines out all the players to only take the best of the best. So Ira, moving into that game and moving into that notion, I can imagine, that first game could give you a little bit of, anxiety, a little bit of jitters, because there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. As you mentioned, it's today or it's nothing. So do you think hopefully the teams would have shake that off from the first game, moving into the second one and, come back stronger?
Honestly, yes, especially with the teams we have on today, right? These are all capable winners, of promoting and so forth into the final rounds. I don't know about the bottom 8 from yesterday. I mean, they've already failed, right? But the teams from Friday, they have everything in their belt to. They have the advantages, etc. And we just didn't see a lot of them pop off. I mean, maybe even more so the top of the leg in Inkosi players like UAE, who come into this one where we expect them to do well and control the map, but unfortunately we're just not seeing that. And why are we seeing that is the question. Why are they still having jitters, and why are they not working with what they have? Like Patchy mentions, we've seen so much less coming out from the teams with what they have, but they still show up to the party. I mean, even me, I thought George would have been a bloodbath and would have gone in maybe to 5th zone with 10 squads remaining, or even 9, because that's how many teams were so close to each other. And for the likes of Mad Clan, they had the opportunity to get some eliminations, but they just disengaged. They left their 4th to die out there and bleed out. But that's not what you want to be seeing coming out from Mad Clan, who showed us such gameplay. And yeah, I'm just going to cut it short as we see the plane fly out now.
Yes, it is. As the players are jumping out of their seats, we like to ask our viewers to please stay seated in yours, because we've got our captains Patchy and Iro taking you through this flight on Erangel for Umzansi Esports League promotion relegation games in Season 4. So guys, our co-pilots, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Tower. We're going to be heading out onto this field right now. Passengers, please keep yourself buckled in when the light is on, and no smoking in the cabin while we're flying. Thanks very much. And as we move forward, we're going to be heading down from the southwest all the way to the northeast near Mong Nai. And that zone is going to be heading slightly up to the
Ooh.
northwest. So a little bit of a shift, but nothing too crazy. The
Mm,
teams do have a little bit of space, and it looks like we've got a bit of boot camp contention. And straight off the
finally.
bat, I want to see that fight happen, Iro. I need
I
to see that
want
fight
to.
happen.
We're talking about this on Friday. Why don't teams contest each other at boot camp? But now we finally get to see this sort of come into play. And it's going to be an interesting battle that we have on our hands.
Yeah, I certainly hope it will be. We've got Rainbow Six, who did go out relatively early on in the first game, so they've got a little bit of picking up to do, a little bit of catching up to do. They need the points, and so, of course, Mad as well. A lot of opportunity you were talking about, not really taken by them in game number one. So let's see if they can make the most of this opportunity that's been given to them. Optimus doing quite a bit of damage here. Rainbow Six definitely looking for a fight, which is what I like to see. They're on the move, pushing up in
Mm,
towards Mad. Old Boss is kind of going off the round, and it is coming through as well. We'll have a look and see if Todoroki is going to be able to catch them out. Prime is here to assist as well. Optimus also there. Todoroki does find End. And now it's just a matter of securing those kills and getting it done. Prime rushes in. He finds himself face first with an M4 and gets immediately thirsted. That's a good pickup there for Mad. Not going to give them the chance for the res. So slowly whittling away at the numbers. And Todoroki also gets taken down and thirsted immediately. Rainbow Six,
ooh.
what a tragedy. Not able to find anything in that fight and just going to go out straight off the bat.
And this is sort of what we saw in game one, right? Rainbow against Mad Clan. And it's crazy to see them yet again in game number two. Sanhok, same positions, contesting each other. Rainbow Six in a slight disadvantage, seeing that they have three members. They somehow still kept in the competitiveness, though. It was a 2v2 at some point. We just didn't see Todoroki get taken down, and it was a confirmation off the bat, and then it was a clean and sweep from Mad Clan. But they lost one member yet again, and we saw what that meant for them going into the end games of Erangle. This is a whole total different strategy altogether, but numbers mean something, and we just saw and witnessed why they mean something, because my clan with the numbers comes through with an off-spawn victory. That's 3 kill points as well that they solely needed due to the performance that they sort of put out in game number one. But Rainbow Six, man, they have the potential, even with a 3-player man, to go up against Mad Clan. They know they've had the gameplay in hand. You know, they've done so well competing, but unfortunately, it is what it is going into Sanhok, and they need to now reponder going into Miramar. We will see these two teams battle again and clash at the POI in Erangel. Do you think they will contest each other, having seen a total team wipeout now?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, at this point, most of the rest of the teams look kind of spread out, relatively static, not too interested in doing anything crazy. We did see that hot drop in boot camp, and that was the reason we got that early fight. The rest of the team's not so interested in doing anything quite like that. They've got the long run in mind at the moment. So I guess we'll just be waiting to see where the choke points start to come through. For instance, if the zone shifts up in your killer's favor, they have a little bit of control over the bridge next to Hatin. So maybe they can find some eliminations on that front. If the zone goes
Mm,
down towards the south, we've got that southern bridge as well that we could
yep.
potentially look towards, and a couple of bridges between Ruins and the mainland on the east. So there's a couple of places that could turn into chokeholds at this time, especially if the zone decides to zoom in towards that river, which it does sometimes. Then we get a bit of fighting across the river, which can always be fun, especially
Yeah.
when the
Yeah.
zone eventually chooses one side to go to, and then you get teams
Oh,
jumping into the river. So yeah, there's
yeah.
some fights on the horizon, I think.
Definitely. On the horizon right over here, we got HORZ Esports going up against Fear. Fear, however, did not pull in a successful game, and this is where we have Inkosi versus Umzansi one-on-one situation. Ahmed already taking in some damage. Will he be able to heal up? Will a grenade sort of take him down in this instance? And it doesn't look like anything's going to connect over there, but it is still being a lit for him. He is taking up some damage and getting in quite close closer to the team, and he's putting himself in such an awkward position where now he's been knocked, and it's down to HORZ Esports to sort of try clutch this one out. They do get that confirmation. Maybe for Fiat, this is good enough, just that one kill that they need at hand, but it still looks like, Swag and Outcast King and Chris are looking to get the furthermore eliminations that they have on board. But it is Aussie Esports. They know exactly how to handle these tough situations. And when I say that, Outcast just gets a beam from the side over there. They get that one player down. Falcon is left over there. Outcast goes down. Falcon also gets knocked. And now it is down to a single individual from HORZ. And heaven knows where he is, as I'm not really locating him in there. Oh, there's he down there at the bottom, as we are down to literally up sheer to do the most for his team, but it doesn't look like anything can come into play for this one over here.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with your words there. A little bit of an awkward fight coming out of HORZ. The positioning a little bit questionable. The one player all the way down at the foot of that hill, a little bit too far away to support for the most part. And then a really huge overextension from Ahmed all the way to the top of that hill. Definitely a bit of an awkward position to try and defend, especially against the likes of Fear. And they just sort of rolled down the mountain and picked them up one by one. So, yeah, a little bit of a questionable one there.
I'm pretty sure maybe they didn't expect this early on, Fear, to have that many grenades. I mean, they just kept chugging it at Ahmed, and he healed up, he got damaged, healed up, and he just couldn't survive the explosions that were played at him. But nonetheless, still, that positioning coming out from him was way too aggressive. He's also so separated from these teams, and I say so separated because literally that centimeter away from your teammate can mean so much for you and how the battles are played out.
Certainly can. And well, we saw how it played out for HORZ there, and it didn't really work out all too well for them. Now we'll have a look and see if any of these teams are going to fall susceptible to some of those mistakes, because right now the pressure is on, and when that happens, teams do tend to make mistakes. I mean, we were talking about how teams can thrive, but they can certainly also stumble up, and really that's what separates out the teams here today. We'll have to look and see which ones are going to thrive and which ones are going to stumble here. Right now, we're still waiting for more engagements to take place. We've had two good fights so far in the early zone, so I like to see that. It would be nice to see a few more happen before we start to enter into that mid game. But for the moment, it looks like the teams are relatively content with being where they are, considering the fact that they are inside that safe zone for the time being. It looks like a nice little snake going up the coastline from south to north. You've got this line following the river for these teams, sort of separating the map out into east and west zones here. A lot of teams on that western side and all the way up in Hatin as well. So maybe we'll see a few shots get exchanged in those locations there. We do see a very long rotation happening towards the east coast there. That is quite a far rotation, utilizing the water and actually making a little bit of a BBC-esque rotation there. Quite reminiscent of their strategies that we've seen them employ in the past. And certainly gets a thumbs up from me. They should be able to execute something pretty interesting here for themselves. In the meantime, we do have Neon focusing in towards Dagger, seeing if he can pop a couple of shots in that direction, and has found quite a good number of damage into himself as well. So they are trying to find some hits, which is good.
Definitely, and dealing the damage is really what we want, to put that pressure onto that team. And for Rain from Hell, they just haven't shown up to the party today. I mean, if you look at, their past performances, etc., this is not what we're expecting. One of their teammates down, the other one confirmed, eliminated, now down to 3 members to clutch up. And by the looks of it, doesn't look like that clutching is even existing, because game number 1, Erangel was just not there. They came in on that second page, and it is what it is. But now we talk about what you almost mentioned, where you have the likes of your killer is to control that bridge, but it does now look like that's not the case, as Black Clover or Black Crystal, I'm not quite sure which team that is going to be holding that bridge, and the rotations coming out of that one is going to be tough. Young Thunder's coming in from behind as well, so that bridge is going to be contested for the likes, and it does look like instead of taking taking the bridge. They're going to jump straight into the water and rotate via that. TenX Esports as well, just behind them. And they could potentially even look to the a lake or sea, whatever this is, to get some damages in.
Yeah, your killer is throwing themselves into the water to try and escape and survive. But at the moment, 10x is just looking to capitalize on their exposure here and just pick up some free kills. And it looks like they might just be able to make that happen. Shroud low on HP and very close to that cliffside. Anonymous also slowly swimming across the way. Not able to swim forever, though. Have to come up for air sometime. So 10x literally just have to wait for that head to pop up and take a few shots in that direction and see if they get some kill confirms. They are riding the zone, so they're right on that line. So they do have a little bit of safety in that. They don't actually have to go anywhere for the most part. They can camp this one out just a little bit and pick up some kills potentially for free. And that's a great spot to be in. Could come with a few eliminations. The Don making that push up to see if he can spot any of that out. The blue zone should be coming in relatively soon. While 10x do rotate on the out, you can see Snake Eyes moving off in the distance, getting himself into position. And slowly you can start to see these teams are preparing for the long haul that is to come. And of course, that is starting relatively soon as the mid game starts to roll around. We've got Snake Eyes looking for a 10x, and you can find Logic and does spot him out on the bridge, but no damage done. Not able to land those shots, and that's going to mean that Snake Eyes is going to have to try and re-engage here and stay alive, as the Don is now aware of his location and will try to take a fight here. They have to be careful because they are fighting on the edge of zone, so the blue will come into play a little bit. Ooh, and Eend actually just going to blow himself up, as one does.
As one does on a weird Sunday evening. We do have that coming into play. Yokeler's Shroud is in the sticky one, has the Don, is going to keep this one on lockdown, and it doesn't look like they're going to be rotating. Patchy, what is happening to your Killer is? You speak highly of them, but they're not showing that highly performance.
Look, they came in strong earlier on in this weekend's games, but maybe the nerves is getting the better of them. For now, we'll have to wait and see what Solo is up to, because it looks like they're about to get clapped in the back, and they are. Nova just crawling out of the water like some SEAL Team 6 action right here. Just emerging all stealth-like and taking them out from behind, and just confirming those kills and that nice elimination for MZR. Certainly doing quite well in the games today. They did relatively well in game number 1, and now here they are in game number 2, picking up some good kills and some eliminations. So this is good. We're seeing a little bit more consistent eliminations of teams coming through in game number 2, which is definitely going to bode well for a lot of them moving into the late game. You can see everyone is trying to get a little bit more aggressive, trying to get those kills and those points in their pocket, which is absolutely fantastic. That's what we like to see, and I think things are going to start to pick up from here on out for these teams.
Definitely, and we're having a lot more teams being active in some way, form, or matter. We're down to 13 teams left, 13 minutes of gameplay. Rain from Hell still in this one. I had thought, it would have been done for them on that rotation, but they still remain a trio to sort of find the next path of zone for them. 10x Esports finally making a rotation for them. So now your killer is the 2 players, if I'm not mistaken, that is left alive for them, can somehow make the rotation happen for them. And I like how Young Thunder did not get involved at all, because they knew how that could be detrimental to the future. Because if they had, done some shots onto 10x Esports, 10x Esports, where they position now, could easily have, gatekeep that river, that area that they find themselves in. So Young Thunder playing on the dead side rotations, not getting involved in any action whatsoever, just shows to what extent a competitive knowledge they have in this game.
Yeah, and it's going to come into play relatively soon, because things are going to be tested. These teams are going to be tested now. The zone has shifted off just a little bit, gotten a whole lot smaller, and now, as we know with Sanhok, things are about to speed up quite quickly. These teams are not going to get a chance to breathe. They've had plenty of time for the preparation phase, and now comes the battle phase, and Vibe already starting to find a few hits in towards Rain from Hell as they start to move forward. Looking for a little bit of aggression here. They found themselves a safety spot inside zone, but not safety with regards to the team that's right up ahead of them. They have to be careful. Those nades are absolutely getting tossed, belted across the way towards them. And now here comes Yo-Yo and the rest of the team to see if they can pick up those last few kills there. Yo-Yo just peeking it out, trying to find the shots, looking for a little bit of damage, is consistently peeking on that side and will pick up the damage. He will be rewarded for his endurance, and there it is. Neon now on the back line trying to pick up the pace, but is not going to be able to do so. Yo-Yo has just been on point here, picking up the kills for this team, and they have gotten that elimination on Rain from Hell and reduced us to 12 remaining teams.
Yep, and we are down to 12. It is so crucial. These final moments over here is either make or break the Umzansi grind that we have on our hands over here, because but however, if you do get a win with like 15 kills, then maybe you can come back into it. But this is the second game. We only have 4 games on our hands, and realistically, if your odds are not in your favor, if the probability of you losing this game and game number 1 for you to make a comeback story for 3 and 4 is just not going to be there. But again, anything's possible here in PUBG. We may potentially have the very last team clutching up a madness of a game going into Erangel, and then we're seeing, us jumping off our seats and flying the plane into the orbit and crashing onto the moon. I mean, anything's possible.
Anything is certainly possible. You're absolutely right. And we're about to see what is possible coming out of the teams today. We're waiting for that consistency. We're waiting for the amazing plays to come out. And so far, I've been quite happy with this game's performance of the teams here. They've taken some good fights and reduced us down to 12 teams, which is more than can be said for most of this weekend. We've had some consistent fighting coming through, teams picking up the kills, picking up the eliminations, playing that game. And now they're starting to close on in. We're heading into zone number 4, slowly in towards number 5. So the end game is close in sight, and these teams are getting a little bit more antsy as they get closer and closer. You can see that Comfy has got control of this compound right over here. Fear just on the outskirts of that, looking to see if they can maybe find a crack in the defenses and take over this position. They're going to have to move forward just a little bit, though, because they are not inside the zone. They have about 40 seconds before they have to make a rotate. So their decisions are in front of them. They've got to make something soon. Otherwise, they're going to start running out of time. We know how Sanhok can be. We know that this map creeps up on you very, very quickly, especially if you're undecided for too long.
Definitely. And it is weird though, it has the same playing time as, Erangel, etc. But it feels faster for some reason, that the decisions you make need to happen quick. They need to be clear and sound for your teammates as well, because if you guys are not on the same page and you guys go with the split drop, you'll find yourself being eliminated. If you guys are, like for instance, Ahmed going to ahead of zone, like the way that we saw HORZ Esports, to a head in a fight like HORZ Esports did, sort of found their formation in, you'll get eliminated. So literally it all comes down to a fast-paced gameplay and fast decision making, and the teams that can do that, the teams that will pop off in these games over here. Look what we have on our hands. It's BC versus BC, Black Clover versus Black Crystal.
Yeah, it is, and we're waiting to see which one of them is going to prevail here at the moment. Dagger pushing on up, but not able to save Vibe. The elimination comes through too quickly. Not enough time to get that res in. In the meantime, TenX moving up on the backside, looking to put some pressure on from that particular direction. We're looking to see which of these BC teams, Black Crystal or Black Clover, is going to take the victory in this instance here. Dagger is very much up ahead of the squad. Yo-Yo has been very consistent so far in this game in picking up kills for the team, but that's a lot of damage in towards Dagger. In the meantime, Rick's also taking a lot of damage there on the 10X side. So these teams got to be careful. There is much strong defense coming out in this compound right up ahead of them versus the trees and the rocks being provided for the likes of Dagger. Has to be careful here. HP coming back up just a little bit, but Yo-Yo gets down. That's a huge one. That's a big player taken off the team, and the third-party shots coming in from 10X are going to be the death of Dagger, and Yo-Yo soon to follow as Hamidi trying to come up, but look at this angle coming out of Alpia. That should be more than enough to stop anyone from trying to get up into the res position. So I think that may be done and dusted on that front. And in the meantime, you can see Eden's coming up on the backside of TenX, who have their own problems to worry about as well. Things are heating up all over the show because we're moving into zone number 5, heading in from the mid game to the late game. We're 10 teams strong at the moment. This is exactly where these guys want to be right now. They have gotten the elims, but can they make that final push up into the end game?
Young Thunder just coming in fast over there, and Hamidi just couldn't react to that one. Young Thunder making the long rotations over there, and I'm not too sure, but is it just Odderness left alone in the team?
It seems to be so. I'm not too sure at this point, but ultimately, things are not going to get any easier at this point. The eliminations coming in from TenX, they get taken out. Young Thunder also getting eliminated. As you can see there on the map, that zone shift down towards Barn is forcing the teams to get out of there super quickly, but that's going to force them right into the crosshairs of just about everyone else at the moment. We are looking at quite a difficult end game play for these teams here.
I like the fact that we have Chaos a full squad alive, right? We did see on Friday Chaos winning Sanhok. Could it potentially happen that they could win this one as well?
Oh man, this looks absolutely intense for these teams. We do have Comfy just chilling across the road from MZR, it looks like, or is that Mad? Just across the way from them, Madara getting taken out as king, putting the hits in. Squeak looking for a bit of damage in towards Outcast, has found a considerable amount, but has not been able to make anything more happen at this point. Things are starting to get very, very difficult. It's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, the Mad Clan definitely putting up that pressure. Pikachu, however, gonna be taken down, and it's a Black Crystal against Mad Clan in the place. Althea gets taken down as well over there. Pikachu completely wiped out by Comfy. True, and Comfy have their duo in this one over here to try make things happen for them. In fact, the entire squad is alive in this one, and we may potentially see a 4v4 situation being played out over there against Chaos towards the very end, as the other teams sort of battle it out and deal damage to one another. Is just not exactly what you're looking like. True, making sure to keep eyes on UAE, Shahil, and Inspector, the only duo out of Undisputed. And you could just see True knowing exactly that they came out from that position. They want to keep focus on here to try grab some more kill points. Currently sitting on 3.
Yeah, currently sitting on 3 with 6 teams remaining at the moment. We've got Comfy looking to try and secure that southwestern portion of the zone there. They do have a little bit of an innings. They've got this rock to work with at least, but as we know, when you're all concentrated in a position like that, you can become susceptible to some nades, so they do have to be careful. A lot of teams on the side there. Titan moving forward. That's a little bit of damage done by Chaos, who have control of the northern compound there. That's going to make things difficult for Mad as well, as they try and move past into zone. The crossfire coming through, and the damage is being done. Fennyberg getting taken down. Squeak now trying to move down with the rest of the squad. But look at those eliminations, those knocks just coming through on towards Comfy. Just not able to get down that mountain quick enough. There's no cover to utilize there. It's becoming very difficult. The chokehold is being held there. Chaos also taking a lot of damage. There's Titan trying to stay alive, moving down as the zone starts to close in and things are getting even more difficult. Undisputed moving in from the south. Inspector looking to get some eliminations onto Comfy, and he will find them. Fennyberg getting taken down in the completions of those bursts should be able to come through as well. Titan just keeping himself up towards the top there. We do see a little bit of a heal zone, the strat coming out there, a heal strat out in the blue zone in the top, but I'm not too sure how long that's going to last. At this point, we're 7 zones deep. That's going to do a lot of damage. And all of these teams, I honestly can't say who's going to come out on top of this one. Everyone's in a very, very bad spot.
There's that Heal sort of coming down and dusted. Old boss going to be eliminated. Comfy 6 was such in a dramatic position where they could have gotten eliminated here by Inspector. So was also Chaos Esports, as BC Titan did so much damage over there, but the entire teams have now managed to sort of revive and get into a perfect position. UAE with 5 eliminations down to 4th place. They're tagging up Comfy. True goes down. Sahil picks up that elimination. Titan trying to make the rotations in there, but Crazy is able to deal the damage over there as he does do that. Inspector coming in from behind, Speak in the heal off zone, trying to grab him team placement points if possible. And now we're getting a battle between a squad as well as a duo of UAE, and this is definitely going to be lighting up as Inspector deals 1, but 2, and now 3 go down from Chaos, and it's down to a single individual. How has UAE survived this position? They can literally come through with the cleanup onto Minato, as he is the only solo player alive in this position. The Inspector is quite low. Sahil sitting all the way back at the edge of zone, but the confirmations come in. UAE clutch up their game, Squeak in the zone, still healing up. If he can take a shot at Inspector, but at what cost will it bring to him as he's so far deep in the zone? Sahil is covered by the rock. He's keeping safe. He's keeping happy. And this is definitely a UAE Inspector and Sahil win coming in. A clutch of madness, which we would have never predicted, seeing that there were only 2 of them. I thought maybe Chaos could have come through with a Sanhok win, just like they did on Friday evening. But unfortunately, they're just being taken out by the duo. And in moments now, we just got to wait for Squeak to sort of heal out in the zone. And I wonder how much medkits and bandages he does have with himself over there, because he is healing for a huge number of time. But I highly doubt that he can out heal Inspector and Sahil, who have been in the zone just chilling over here. But that open playing field is sort of coming to a close right now. And if he does squeak, he can take a peek, but he does need all the seconds he needs here to sort of grab up and heal up. And just look at how much heals he does have in the back pocket over there. So we just gotta wait and it's just the timing. There we go. Finally happening. Squeak goes down, but UAE clutch up their games. And this is the UAE I was talking about, Patchy, coming to the party and showing exactly what they're made of. It's 11 eliminations, 2nd place coming off from Comfy, 3rd place Chaos Esports, and then this is exactly what it is. Holy, that was a massive clutch from UAE though.
Yeah, what an insane clutch coming out. Inspector just doing the most, really going ham. Everyone was in a really precarious position, but I think I agree with you in the fact that Chaos maybe had the upper hand for a few moments, but that insane battle work being done by Inspector, the gunplay was fantastic, just winning those fights, winning the gun battles, and really just taking his team from potentially going out 3rd to getting that chicken dinner and securing that in an almost impossible situation. So, yeah, that's what we like to see.
We love to see it. I mean, the chaos just coming down to it once again. And of course, the zone always has to be just a little bit interesting, doesn't it? Always taking us to a new place on Sanhok. And Sanhok coming to a close now. We are officially past the second point, the second half of this promotion relegation. Of course, this is the last day that the teams could potentially get themselves a spot in the next season of Umzansi. So you can bet that they are doing their best to get those points, to get themselves up on that leaderboard, and hopefully be going through to the next round of Umzansi, which I think is going to be interesting. I mean, Patchy, based on how this season went, what are you thinking about, this upcoming season with the teams that we're seeing on our screens right now?
It's going to be good. I must say, I think it's going to be good. There's a lot of work to be done. I think all the teams that have made their way up into Season 5 already, and the teams that are going to be at the end of today, have their work cut out for them. But I think at this point, they've earned their chance to prove themselves. We've been looking at Season 4 so far being incredibly competitive. The teams have really stepped it up a notch, and every season, it just feels like that rung gets higher and higher. So there's a lot of work to do. But certainly, it is going to be very interesting to see what they bring to the table, as it is every season. But I think more so now than ever, as we move forward more and more. And these teams, we've been calling this the grinder all weekend long, and there's a reason for that. It really is bringing out the best in these teams, and we're seeing a little bit of what they have to offer, and the pressure, the performance under pressure, should I say, coming out there. I mean, we saw Inspector just doing some serious work there from UAE. And if that's the kind of stuff that we're bringing to the table, then there's definitely some potential. I think there's a lot of room to grow, but certainly there is a lot of potential for these teams in Season 5.
Oh, Season 5 is shaking up to be an absolute crazy one. Let's take a look at the MVP from that previous game. My goodness. I mean, is it really any surprise? Inspector coming through from Undisputed AE with 7 kills, 944 damage, and of course, a total survival time of 26 minutes. Nice and even for once. We're not seeing some crazy seconds going in there, but hey, looking at it, Undisputed AE definitely picking up the points that we've been waiting for them to do. We've been mentioning their name this whole weekend, and this is the last chance they have to potentially qualify. So I hope after all the hyping up we've been doing that we might be seeing them actually qualify, because otherwise it would be pretty sad. We're going to go to, a short break shortly, but Ira, from your side, I want to get your last thoughts. What are you thinking based on how these games are going? Do you think there is still space for certain teams to pick it up?
I don't know. Like I mentioned, the probability, right, is if you didn't do well the first game and second game, is that third game is literally the break or make moment. If you need to literally come second place with some kills, or maybe even a winner chicken dinner too, then continue the consistency into game number 4. But the fact that they've already done bad game 1 and 2 means that the mentality potentially is not there. The team is potentially also arguing, they're just not in that right mindset. Or unless if you're that type of winner guy who's like, hey, let's do this, we got this, and they come back to win a game, sure, that brings them back into perspective, but it's not as easy as I'm saying right now. When seeing such plays like UAE, like, oh guys, look, we're a full squad, we're gonna go up against a duo and a solo, we easily got this. They're celebrating. Chaos, I can tell you, were on their feet, celebrating that win already. But Inspector there to ruin the entire scene and take the winner for themselves, and Chaos is like, how did that happen?
Exactly that. So we're going to go to that short break, and when we come back, of course, there is more PUBG mobile action. So stay with us. This is the Umzansi Esports League Promotion Relegation Finals. Welcome back, everyone, to the promotion relegation games for the Umzansi Esports League Season 4. This is the players' last chance to get into Season 5. So, of course, you can bet that they're going to try their absolute best. We are officially at the halfway point. We have done 2 of the 4 games of this evening. And, of course, the teams have decided to be, well, confusing, because now we can't really predict anything. Everyone that we thought was going to be going through from the first map, second map, what happened? Let's take a look at that leaderboard so we can start breaking it down and see what's going to be happening for that third map. Ira, take us through it.
MZR coming through with that first place position with 20 eliminations and 16 placement points. They lead the pack with 36 in total. Young Thunder with a good game number 1, but only 1 point in the bag for game number 2 are on 32 points. UAE in third place with 31. Comfy 6 in fourth with 19. Let's celebrate that, guys. That is a moment to remember. Fantastic in the books. Amazing, amazing. In fifth place, you got Black Crystal on 18 points, tied with Mad Clan actually, and TenX Esports coming down in 7th with 17. Chaos in 8th place with a successful game number 2 going in hand over there with 15. This wraps up what could potentially look like your promotion teams going into Mzansi. But anything can change depending on how many points the second page has, which we're going to go and look onto right now. So you can see already tied in 9th place is going to be Fear. And then in 10th is 2 points behind Black Clover. Raptors AF only 5 points behind on 10 points. And then this is where it starts to get tough for these teams. If these teams do not clutch up the games right now in game number 3 and 4, we could potentially say goodbye to them, because HORZ Esports, Solo Esports, Your Killer Is, Rainbow Six and Madagascar, and Rain from Hell wrap up the positions from 12th to 16th, and with only 6 points being the top over there, they're going to need a massive amount of sort of successful rotations or even kills, even just a second place, to start to see themselves going on to that first place, and hope that, you know, the teams above them are also somewhat struggling to do so, and then they can clutch up. But HORZ Esports, we've come to see them, you know, they've done so well in their games, but will they be able to do so in the final 2 games that they have right now?
Patchy, as our resident stats man, what are you thinking? Going into Miramar, obviously we just came through from Sanhok. You know, we had a lot of like in-zone heal strats coming through, of course, making the plays there towards the end. But Miramar is a little bit of a different scenario entirely. You think the teams are ready for this one?
Well, I can say that game 2 was looking much better, in my opinion, in terms of just the teams getting active. And I think I'd actually like to make a little bit of a point out. The teams on the overall leaderboard on page number 1, as far as I can see, all of those teams are the ones that have taken successful fights, and the chain fighting that we saw in game number 2 is reflective of that. There were a lot of teams that were able to accumulate a decent number of points off the back of that. They were taking fights, the eliminations were a bit early, it made the last few zones a bit more manageable, and of course we had that fantastic clutch up out of Inspector. But other than that, I mean, the kills coming in super handy. The battles are rewarding both the kills and the eliminations, causing an extra, placement point. And I keep saying it, every elimination, every team that you eliminate gives you an extra placement point, right? And an extra slot up. Sure, it gives everyone else an extra slot up, but you're not focusing on them. You focus on yourself. Yeah. See, it's going to get you another point up. And that's what's happening. You accumulate the points at sort of like an exponential ratio. So getting active and maintaining the activity across all the stages of the game rewards the teams a lot. And you could see that it's reflecting, should I say, in the numbers, as you can see on the leaderboard. So moving into Miramar, we're talking about these long-range engagements, right? It's a forced fight, because as soon as you can engage a team from a long distance, it stops becoming about, okay, let me, try and squeeze my way in here. Let me try and get into here. It's more about, are we in a position where we can defend and attack? Right. And if we try and move, can we get into another position where we can make that happen? Because 100% there's going to be somebody on a mountain like 100 meters away, a kilometer away on this side and on that side. They're looking in your direction. You need to make sure you're ready for those fights. So it's kind of like there is no ability to really hide. Even though the map is so big, there's still so much chance that somebody on the other side of the map is going to engage you. And we see that every time we come onto Miramar, the fighting always picks up. And the fact that
Yeah.
we've picked up the fighting on Sanhok really makes me hope that that trend is going to continue into Miramar. It would be kind of bad to see everything slow down again. I mean, it's understandable considering all the teams want to try and just play it as safe as possible. But at this point, you know my stance on this. I always like it to risk it for the biscuit. I always like teams getting out there and
Go for
making
it.
things happen because it changes the maps. It gives opportunity. It creates opportunity for points. And that's what you're looking for. You want to make opportunities for yourself. You want to get involved. You want to make things happen. Trip up those teams, catch them out, punish them, do the gatekeeping, do the bridge camping, do what you need to do. Go in, get it done, and hopefully maybe we'll get some hot drops. It does tend to happen sometimes on this map.
We've definitely seen that before. Actually, in the finals of the previous season, it seems to recall my memory. But hey, third map of the day of 4 maps today, about to go underway, and of course, it's at this point in time that I give it over to our amazing casters. It's Patchy, it's ROG to take you through this wonderful, wonderful action that we're going to be seeing on Miramar for the Umzansi Esports League promotion relegation finals. Guys, take it away.
Thank you, Esproxy. We are in map number 3. It's Miramar. It is not the final map for today. We still have one more after this, of course, going all the way back to Erangel. But for now, we're on Miramar. We've got some long-range fighting that is right up ahead on the horizon. We're just waiting to see if the teams are going to get into the action right off the bat, or if they're going to try and slow things down just a little bit. What do you think, Ira?
Yeah, definitely. It is going to slow things quite a bit. And I like that you mentioned, like, you could have a player 1 km away, another player 1 km to your right, and, sniping down onto the positions over here. Miramar is a very slow gameplay, but honestly, at this point, you need to eradicate the team that is holding that placement point for you. And whilst you're doing that, you're averaging more points than everyone else because you're getting those team kills, because you're risking for the biscuit. And the more you do that, yes, it's risking, but the more successful you come out of it, right? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, the more risk in the action, the more potential reward for it. Usually, I mean,
Yeah.
not all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of risk that are unnecessary. And when we talk about that, it's usually something like, taking a rotate in a really difficult spot where you didn't need to, or there's bad decision making comes into play there as well. You have to look at the motives and see the situation. A lot of the time, the teams don't have all the information that we have, though, so we can't really criticize them too much on that front. But it does sometimes happen. But for the most part, usually if there's a risky situation, it's also the ones that you want, the risky situations that you want to take are usually the ones with the highest reward. And I think at this point, it really is a weighing up of decisions. Do we want to play safe and maybe try and secure more points? It's not going to be as many points, but we'll still get some at least. Or are we going to go all in and risk just getting nothing out of this game? And I mean, that's what the teams have to decide. That's what the IGLs have to make the decisions about. That's what the teams have to come to terms with. At this point, we know that at the very least, Miramar is a map that gives players and teams the space to implement their own decisions and implement their own strategies and their own tactics here on this map.
Yeah, we know. We've seen it time in and time out. Miramar, as much as we'd love that action and, risking for the biscuit, all these guys grab vehicles and they hog the white line, they hog the available house, they set there until the next form of rotation, jump into the vehicles, and there they go, dashing onto the next zone. I think the only action we're going to start seeing is in endgame, and even potentially the way it looks right now, so contested towards that west side of the safe zone. There's so many players quite close to each other, but nobody's going to take that first shot. Nobody's going to try get one eliminated because the pressure's on. As much as we'd love to see the action, everyone's sort of hoping that this is their game, especially for that second page that we have so much so fierce in a safe position. I mean, they are tied for that first page position. The guys on 13 points as well, they're safe. They can just come top 5 and they can potentially move up onto the ranks. But the likes of 6 points and so forth, that's when things start to get questionable. And they playing on their edge right now. Their senses are, turned up another notch. They're just trying to make sure that they are able to stay alive into the zone rotations. But whilst they're doing that, everyone on the map is also doing the same thing. So it's just biting yourself in the back, saying, you know what, I want to play placement, want to get those points, but at the end of the day, those points are not available because no squad is gonna die just yet, and it is what it is in these positions. You do see Rainbow Six, however, finding themselves onto Young Thunder. Young Thunder have, being so unfortunate in the previous. I mean, we did see last game, they had such a successful rotation, and I thought, the competitive knowledge was working to their advantage, but somehow only Aiden Us from Young Thunder managed to be the only team player to go into the rotation of the next zone, and he didn't survive too long after that. And you already seen Rainbow Six getting some eliminations onto the players over here, but they may potentially be pushed from far behind with Superior and Adonos, but it doesn't look like that could potentially come into action. I'm hoping that maybe Rainbow Six third player could come to the party and make things even here for these guys.
Yeah, Young Thunder is now being tested here. Prime intentionally leaving the player alive, see if he can bait out any of those Young Thunder players a little bit further out and maybe pick them off coming in to just contest them right over the edge of this hill. Right now, Superior just moving up, trying to get an angle on there. He knows that he can try and squeeze his way over to Hero, but it's going to be a difficult time with Prime and Rainbow Six just waiting for something to happen, waiting for the opportunity to take him down. You can see Optimus is rotating back and forth, trying to keep a weather eye out, trying to keep a wide angle on the players as they move up the road. He knows that if they try and just squeeze forward for that pickup, he should be able to make something happen. Prime is just on that side. Looking for it. Superior has made his way up, but there it is. He's going to find the elimination onto one, knocks the second as well. And that is basically the nail in the coffin that Rainbow Six needed. A very nice flank coming out of Optimus, just making sure that that is secured as well. Picks up both of them. So the bait and switch has worked out. Young Thunder took it hook, line, and sinker. Now they find themselves with only 2 remaining players, and the decision to rotate away is probably the smartest decision at this point.
Prime and his teammate Hero played that so well because they were a duo the entire battle that they had found themselves in, but they played it well. They played that bait, they played it to their advantage. The Superior tried to make that rotation in to try get his team up, but at what point no smoke screens were put up at all as well for the teams over there. So literally you're playing at a disadvantage, putting yourself at harm, and that wasn't necessarily needed. Now they're going to the end game with not 3 but 2 players of their own, and I say end game, man, that's if they even survive mid game, which seems to be what is going to be a stack of a game as well that we have on our hands. Mad Clan, not showing up to the party as would love to see them, with the consistency and gameplay that they've shown time in and time out on Friday, but unfortunately this time around they already have one of their players, Old Boss, who is a serious pillar in keeping the team alive in the rotations and so forth, being dead. Magic on height getting tagged up here by Crazy, and they're going up against Comfy, where it does seem as if they balance things out with 1 elimination each.
Yeah, it seems like a tough play for all of these teams. I definitely agree. I think that this is looking to be a stacked game here for sure. We still have 16 teams left alive, so the slow pacing is definitely secured here in this game. We did see a couple of battles earlier, but ultimately nothing too crazy has happened yet on the map. Everyone is just playing this one, making sure they try and secure as much as possible. Right now, we're looking to see if Mad can take a little bit of a fight share with Comfy, who has been on the roster here just a little bit, waiting to see if they can pick some points up for themselves and secure that spot up back in Umzansi, because ultimately that is what everyone is fighting for. We've been focusing on the games here, but that is the ultimate goal at the end of the day. And Magic getting taken down on the rotate, now looking like a little bit of a difficult spot for Pikachu. He's just going to rotate straight away from that with the vehicle. Crazy on the hunt to see if he can stop that rotate, but ultimately dips back inside and make sure that he stays with the rest of the squad. A smart decision as they try and re-engage potentially over that long distance and try and find a few more pickups for themselves.
Let's see exactly what happens. I mean, Magic gone down Now they're going in for the disengagement. Really not what you want. You can see Black Crystal coming in far behind Fear right now. I don't think the potential fight could be on our hands over here, but they're still sitting on that blue zone rotation and they could potentially be holding them out. But I highly doubt that will be the play. They are also in vehicles, so could potentially be rotating quite fast out of this over here. UAE on the rotation as well, just made it into Los Leon, and they can, hold on a good position as so many teams are looking to sort of make the rotation into there, and then we get to see Inspector work off his magic in that play. But if you look at that west side, it's very, very contested in terms of teams and so forth, but no really shots being targeted at anyone in the vehicles or even the plays for themselves. Pikachu looking to pick up a knock over there, but unfortunately the person is on a hairline of HP, and he somehow manages to bob and weave himself out of that line of fire that was coming up from Pikachu. Now, and as well as Pikachu, Patchy need to really clutch up this game. I mean, we saw a UAE duo win. Will we see a Mad Clan sort of duo win coming in for this team?
I'm not so sure. Hey, Mad, we saw them do relatively well earlier on, but it seems like they're not able to pick up the pace just yet. And you were saying before this game began, if you haven't been able to pick the pace up in the previous games, then game number 3 is basically your final shot, because once we get through game number 3, it's going to be very difficult to jump from the down low all the way to the
Mm.
top. As for Mad, maybe they can switch it up. Maybe they could start picking up some points here and keep a little bit of that consistency, which is ultimately what we're looking for. We'll put that thought on hold as Rage gets taken down. An instant push coming through as they try and put pressure on RPT, who find themselves in a bit of a difficult spot. HORZ not pushing straight on in, but it looks like RPT with a successful defense so far. Falcon has to get the res in here. RPT defending this building quite well so far. They've got it on lockdown. It's going to be a difficult push for HORZ. I'm not too sure what the situation was leading up to this, but the decision to push on up was certainly a bold one from HORZ, and now they're going straight in and seeing if they can pick up any of these kills. The Falcon res will come through, and so at least they have a few numbers to work with. RPT also getting their numbers back up and ready to go, and now it's HORZ just pushing right back into the building, ready to re-engage on this fight. And I'm interested to see if they can successfully push this one. It's going to be a difficult attack, and it was a little bit of a bumpy ride on the approach, but now that they're in the building, it could certainly be a whole lot more doable now for the team. The shots come in, and Audacity getting naded out. Fear also going to get hit, and this is the perfect setup for HORZ. They should be able to clean this one up, no problem. Falcon just moving through the building, super fluid, picking off player after player, and HORZ is just finding everything that they're looking for, and the win will come through for them. Just a little bit of a struggle, but ultimately a very nice pickup.
Yeah, unfortunately, they lose one of their players as well in that battle over there. But that's fine because they pick up so many eliminations in that. And that's the horse we sort of like to see over there, clutching up their eliminations. But on the rise over here is Pikachu just creeping their rotation and mobility, trying to explode their vehicle and, not allowing them to rotate. But, oh, they scout them out and he takes a huge, hefty amount of damage, but it's fine as he is all alone in the building, not really going to be in a tough one. He is able to heal up and you can see the heals come in, but that is it for Mad. Nothing really too serious for them. Successfully for HORZ, if they can continue this, then they can make that comeback of note.
Yeah, certainly could. There's a few battles happening up towards the north in San Martin, where that zone has shifted into the northwest sector, and it looks like a lot of teams are already in that location. The rest of them starting to make their way on in. Nice quick on the rotate. They do not want to get caught out in the blue zone, which is definitely not advisable at this point. If you're stuck in that blue zone, it's going to become a bit of a problem moving forward. Certainly, you don't want to get caught fighting out in that direction, so everyone's just making their way up into that zone as quickly as they can. Certainly, we've seen some good fights happening. A very nice push from HORZ Esports just a little bit earlier there. I want to see a few more of those, to be honest. I want to see a bit more of that because the mentality is exactly where it needs to be when it comes to getting things done and picking up those points.
Definitely, and now we're getting those rotations in, and things are starting to look a bit tight in those circles. But for the guys that already found the earlier positionings, they happy with what is there available for them. Your killer is just a dying to MZR, and we can see as well as Mad End getting in a grenade onto Rain from Hell, which also haven't been too successful in their combat and fighting. It's just been quite tough for Rain, where they sit on that second page of the leaderboard. But it is a trio now versus a duo. Pikachu and End can potentially clutch these ones up, as they do seem to be the better fighters in this. But the way things are turning off in the formation that Rain have sort of built upon here means that it is not going to be too easy. I mean, Jin can go outside on the outskirts and maybe throw even a grenade into the play over there.
Yeah, Mad in a difficult spot. Pikachu and the squad need to try their absolute best to defend this. Skulls is looking for it, just playing with that door. Pikachu taking a lot of damage. That's a down. That's basically the ticket. Rain from Hell should be able to pick this one up. No problem. Now a quick push on towards end, and there is the fight. There is the battle, and Skulls does fall. Actually, the teammate not able to swivel around in time. That's a bit of a problem, a bit of a misstep, but ultimately will come through to save the day. It's Jin, just to make sure that that secure comes through. That was almost an absolute tragic play, but ultimately Jin comes in to save the day and keeps Rain from Hell in this game, keeps them alive and ready to move forward, so they ultimately take that win. Very close, though.
That was like playing with fire, man, because they almost got eliminated. And if you look at the teams that are alive, that is 0 placement points secured for you and yourself. UAE in a really good position as it stands right now, almost center zone. TenX on the white zone right there on the white line. Fear also just playing around the white line. HORZ Esports making the rotations quite relatively close to everyone else, like Chaos. There's a couple eliminations and knocks coming in as Ace go down in this rotation and play Inspector, or maybe Sahil as well, looking quite tough on their play. And I wonder if it's maybe Solo or another team looking to sort of put themselves in a tough positions over there. As you can now see, the battles are coming in. Mighty taking up the damage. Madara looking to be the one to clutch things up over here. And it does look like everyone is revived and back on their feet. And Born is just trying to get out of this one, and he's looking quite tough. Madara putting himself in a tough one as well, as he puts himself in the open. But look, a flip car comes in play, and Solo Born just can't get out of that one. But Madara puts himself in a tough position as Prime just gets the knock onto him over there. Hopefully, they do get the revive, but it doesn't look like the revive can come into play as MZR is pushing onto the positions over here. I feel like a regroup from UAE is crucial right now. Ace needs to rotate into the circle over here to try just give in a helping hand as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that front. UAE in a bit of a difficult spot. Madara goes down, but ultimately does get picked back up, so at least that is there for them. They've got the numbers back up and ready. All 4 players still alive. Madara should be able to get that HP back up, and certainly does. Inspector now looking for some of those shots with the SLS in the long range towards 10x. See if you can find them. At the moment, UAE definitely need to just tighten their line a little bit in case they get separated and split apart, because the 2-2 split for them, while it can work out, it also puts them in a bit of danger, like we saw a little bit earlier. If Madara takes a fight like that again and gets downed, he might not be able to get picked up a second time, depending on if those third-party shots are clean or not. Snake Eyes getting taken down by the blue zone there. Young Thunder just losing out on a few of those players. Swags, of course, picking up that thirst there. Adness getting taken down as Fear finishes the fight. Of course, on your screen, we do have Rain from Hell and Comfy right there, waiting to see if they're going to have to fight for any spaces. Sahil getting taken down there. That Mini 14 from Clutch are just putting the damage in. Now we've got 11 teams remaining, 35 players left alive here in zone number 4. We're about to head in towards zone number 5, and things are going to get even more spicy.
Things are definitely looking a lot more active in Miramar. Those long distance shots are coming in, and it's really starting to count in for some of these teams that definitely need the points. I mean, if you look at Rain, 2 kills, yes, it's 2 kills, but it seems to be a much better progression to their games, how they started this evening. And they're down to 3 members, but A second place with more eliminations on board could be so much better, and we could see them clutching up game number 4. That means they could go into that promotion side of things, but that's a long story still needing to be written from the PUBG segment that we have over here. But as we can see things working out, it does look like Comfy are going to find themselves just behind Fear. And I don't know if Fear really detects this because they're in their own fight of their own.
Yeah, it is going to be even more chaotic as everyone is trying to get to safety and take the fight at the same time. You can see Fenny looking for a few shots in towards Fear. In the meantime, the knock has come through from TenX, so things are heating up. MZR also in a little bit of a fight. Bipolar gets taken down by Chris, and here comes the rest of the squad. Rain from Hell now rolling up on the back line, so there is just chaos now breaking out all over the place. The shots coming in towards Comfy. They're in a tough spot as Rain from Hell coming in from the backside might just be able to pick off a few players, a few stragglers squeak on the one side, very much separated from the rest of the team. But now Rain from Hell is in a pickle of their own as teams coming in for the third parties all over the show. 5 getting taken out by the blue zone. That's a problem. Down to 10 teams now. Crazy gets knocked by Upshear. Things are certainly not getting any easy. The crossfire is just absolutely tough to handle for so many of these teams, and they are really being tested now, thrown into that fire and seen if they will emerge victorious or not.
Well, we're gonna have to wait and see as these rotations come out for Fear. It does look like it's successful as we look at that kill feed. Only Chaos sort of lighting up in there as Strix goes down. There goes the rotation here for Comfy, trying to find themselves in a good position, but Rain from Hell can still deal the damage. And I say that, but Jin goes down. Jin sort of putting him in the open field and ready for the shots coming out from Comfy as Squeak does that exactly. He gets in all the shots, and just here, Fear making a nuisance onto TenX as they do a team wipe. Maybe not expecting that battle to come in as TenX had no defense at all coming into that fight, and it was just a uh, clean servers coming in from them. So let's see exactly what happens right here. Rain looking to be doing the damage onto Comfy, and it could potentially be taking them out in this position. A couple grenades into that smoke screen, and they are done and dusted, sent back to the lobby to reponder on things. But no need for even the grenades as they do deal the damage onto the players, and it does look like it's Crazy that's left alone. And there goes the grenade. Will it connect? Will we see the explosion come into play? We do see so indeed, and Squeak is now down to literally no HP as he gets eliminated. And that was a beautiful, but it does look like HORZ Esports was involved in that mess as well, third parting somewhat form. So it didn't all go into Rain, as you do see HORZ just to the left of Rain on the outskirts over there. One player knocked on their end. They need to try get that revive. And ooh, Rain's just not making it happen. Rain is also getting in that third parties and getting inactive.
Oh, Rain has been going from success to success. When will it end is the question I'm starting to ask right now. With the successful push earlier and the successful elimination there of Comfy with the help of course, HORZ Esports, now they have to go toe-to-toe with the rest of these teams that are starting to move into proximity in the zone, and things are not looking easy. Jin getting taken down by that Mini 14, and MZ are now pushing up in towards Ace, who's about to get absolutely overwhelmed in this position. Chaos trying to move in from the other side. They're keeping themselves alive in this crater, but it's not going to matter for much longer because that blue zone is moving in and they have to push forward into safety. Rain from Hell now getting assaulted. They're under a little bit of pressure. Fear just pushing right up into them, getting up in their business. Can they push? Can they defend? Is the question. Rain from Hell trying to make it happen. Neon just peeking out that Molotov, setting him on fire, just sending him flying, sending him running for the hills. An instant elimination coming through. Fear will be able to pick that one up and successfully attack that position and kick Rain from Hell out of the spot. Now it's on to MZR, who are getting pushed on their own as well. UAE moving in. Mudra just going for the kills. He is finding them. Ace now, all he's doing to try and attack and continue to take down these MZR players. Clutcher does get taken down to some low HPs, but Ace is also down there. Got to get the res back in, or the HP back up, should I say, and he does do that. Now Fear going toe-to-toe with HORZ. You can see GT and Falcon both right across the way. It's a double battle going on in the north and the south at the same time, but Ace has got a lot of work to do here. Shura has now moved in, and there is the knock coming through from the nade. No assistance from the rest of the team, so this should be an MZR cleanup. But Chaos is just on the doorstep as well, so it's not like it's a done and dusted. Mudder are getting eliminated as well, of course, and that means that MZR have control of that compound for the time being. HORZ getting eliminated by Fear as they win that out with a nice elimination and a nade to finish things off, and we are finally left with our last three teams. It's Chaos and it's MZR in the battle here, and of course Fear, who just won theirs on the south.
I'm liking the Chaos clutch plays that they're finding themselves in their positions. You know, the consistency really matters, but will it be enough for them as Monato gets taken down? That blue zone also going to be putting in a lot of pressure as now Nova tries to position himself, but a bit maybe too aggressive as he goes down, but Shura is there to clean things up. But will he do so successfully? He does so, and now MCR trying to go in for the clutch of a revive from Shura, but I don't think it will be possible as Fear is looking onto those positions. It is literally a revive of clutch from Shura onto Nova to make the 2v2 between the two teams that remain sort of happen over here. You can see Outcast trying to go in on the outskirts to try flank that position over there, and we need Nova to heal up as well as Shura if they want to have even a chance at battling this. But I say a chance at battling, and we look at that zone, and they need to rotate into the circle of safe haven that Fear is already located in.
Yeah, and they've got to get their HPs in check as well, because Fear's already setting up for this final push. They know they have to move out of that smoke at some stage. It's just a matter of time. Shura and Nova have to make the decision, getting the HP back up, getting it in check, and now they have the final play to make. It's a 2v2, but Fear are already in position. They're ready, and they're waiting. Can MZR come in with a clutch here? They should be able to isolate a 1v1, or at least a 2v1 in their favor here, and maybe take King out and turn their attention towards Outcast, but it's not to be. Nova gets taken down. The instant return knock comes through, but Shura, very low on HP, now has to deal with Outcast. That is not a good spot to be doing it from there. The smoke is at least popped to obscure that vision just a little bit. Outcast is here, separated from the teammate. This could be exactly what they need if Shura can get his HP back up, but no, he gets spotted out. He gets caught right in the wrong moment, and Fear will snatch that victory away. The preparedness coming in and the clutch play from them, securing that chicken dinner for game number 3. But look at those kills in positions 1 and 2.
Beautiful. And then you look at that third place and they are killed, and you're like, ooh, Chaos, what had happened on their rotations? Playing it a bit or too safe, but nonetheless still secure in the bag, 10 points in placement points. But oh, it is a lot going in for MZR. It is a lot going in for Fear. That is the top 3 teams in game number 3. We're going to have to wait and see if anyone from 4th or 5th had more eliminations than Chaos. They could potentially just be pulling in a lot more points. And this one not really being that much of a high distributed of points towards this team. I can tell you first and second are going to have that huge surge of points compared to 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
I don't know. We're gonna have to take a look at those leaderboards just now and also start breaking it down, because now we're getting to that point where we've got one more map left. And we had this happen on Friday where we had teams, consistently getting not the best points, but like they had a few points here and there, but they were still on the last page, just not getting to that top 8 threshold. And then come the last game, they make a play of a lifetime and catapult themselves forward to that first base, making themselves a spot here for today's games. Whether or not that's going to happen today is going to depend on, if the teams have been that consistent so far. I mean, we've seen a considerable mix of teams, jumping in between that top 10. So the top 8 at least is the number we should be looking at. So when you take a look at those leaderboard, we can start breaking it down. But for the time being, we're just going to look at the standings, look at the MVP, and start thinking in our minds, in the back of our heads, okay, well, where is this going to be going? Patchy, from your side, of course, Miramar done and dusted now. Next game is going to be Erangel. But how did that Miramar, feel for you compared to what we were talking about previously, with the comparison in Sanhok moving on to Miramar?
Yeah, look, I mean, we were talking about the comparison between those games in terms of, the activity that we were seeing from Sanhok versus the first game, which was pretty good. And Miramar, I think, wasn't actually disappointing. We saw some very good pushes coming through from some teams. We saw some good defenses and, of course, a great clutch at the end there. So definitely the teams have been looking to get more busy and utilize the time that they have, because of
Mm.
course we only have a certain amount of time in each sort of section. The early game setup, it gives you a little bit of opportunity, a bit of a window. In the mid game, we did see some good pushing, as I mentioned, some really nice attacks and defense coming in, and that's kind of just the classic stuff that you really like to see. Just this classic pushing and the successes, and a little bit of a stumble in some of them, but ultimately some really good interactions. Then, of course, that late game coming through very, very nicely. A little bit of a misstep maybe at the end there, but I mean, under a pressurized situation like that, you only have a few options. You maybe try and res your teammate, you try and heal up, or you try and take the fight. And of course, the decision was to try and heal up instead of maybe looking for the fight. And yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to all of that. But unfortunately, that smoke ran out, and of course, Fear was there to capitalize. But ultimately, it was a pretty good game, I think, on Miramar overall. The question then becomes, are we going to see the same thing in Erangel? So is it going to be like a nice progression from Erangel 1 being kind of chaotic and not really know what's going on, and everyone's dropping George, but no one's taking the fight, to a really good second game and a good third game? Are we going to progress to a good fourth game on Erangel again, or are we going to go back to the chaos? Because I'm kind of like, I hope that it's a nice progression to, we're going to take a nice, clean, Erangel map where we're going to get in there, we're going to get the fights going, we're going to play our strategies. We're not all going to drop in George. We're not all going to sit around doing nothing for 4 or 5 zones. We're going to get in there and make the points happen, especially because it's the last game. And like you said, actually, there is that little bit of a chance to get yourself out of relegation now, and it's the last game to do that. So yeah, I really do hope that it's going to be quite a banger.
Yeah, I doubt that the teams that didn't do well on Erangel, would want to repeat it exactly the way that it went the first time. Unfortunately, we had a few teams that fell quite short for those points looking into that first game. And we mentioned, of course, that, it's the first game jitters, big match temperament, whatever you want to bring in to sort of break that down. But either way, there are mistakes that need to be fixed. So I am hoping that they've, taken note about, okay, this is where we were looking at drop zones, this is where we were looking at teams that we were contesting, and this is where, the most contested spot is. So perhaps we should avoid that, but stay close enough that we can jump in the action when we are ready. Because that's the main thing, right? Is the teams that are engaging in fights are the ones starting the fights and the ones finishing those fights successfully. They're the ones that are choosing the fights the best, making sure that, listen, we can actually take this. We know that we can get this team wiped. We know we can get out in time and then continue, our reign of terror, if that's the way that you want to go about it. So hopefully those are the teams, making those decisions and making them a little bit better this time around, because now it is crunch time. Of course, as we mentioned, one more map, and then those 8 slots will be taken up, and it will be done and dusted for the bottom 8 that didn't make it. And unfortunately, they will have to come back in Inkosi, which no one really wants to do, because we want the big prize pool, and we want, to be on Jinx TV, and we want all the nice things. So let's see how those standings are looking. So, of course, MZR Esports picking up the 28 points, Fear picking up 26, and then it starts to trickle down quite significantly, Patchy. So I think that's a little bit of an issue, for the teams that are towards that low end, because you can see top team, 28 points. Bottom team in the top 8, 3 points. That's a massive gap.
Yeah.
This is something I mentioned, we saw those high distributed kills going into first and second place. I mean, even Fear winning that game means nothing to MZR as they grab those kills. And yeah, 28 points, 26 points, then 3, 4, 9, 10, 10, 16. It's really, really crazy that we're in this position. HORZ Esports tried their level best. I mean, another team that were doing where they shouldn't have done was Rain from Hell, because they should have been eliminated much, much sooner, but somehow they just kept making it work for themselves.
Yeah.
Looking at the second page as well, I mean, these are also teams that we saw doing pretty well in previous games, and now they're picking up single-digit points.
Yeah, I have to say that MZR is probably the most consistent team we've seen this like set of games today. I think out of all the teams that I've been seeing MZR mostly in the top, I'd say 5 at least.
Yeah.
Usually ending in the top most of the time. So I think if any of the teams are pulling out the consistency, it is them at this point. So I actually expect them to do pretty well in the final game. at the very least, and I think they'll probably be one of the teams that does qualify. And speaking of MZR, here's Shura getting that MVP, 7 kills, 773 points of damage, 25 minutes, 3 seconds survival time from Shura. So yeah, a well-deserved MVP, and I think that's kind of reflective of the performance of MZR so far. And I think that, other than that, it's kind of like a big question mark for me because, as you said, we've been seeing a little bit of a up and down performance from a lot of the teams today. We haven't had a surefire winner every single time. No one's absolutely dominating. I think the most that can be said, as I mentioned, is MZR has been relatively consistent today.
We're going to go to that short break so we don't waste any time getting into that last match. And of course, taking a look at that leaderboard, which will all happen after the break. So stay seated, stay with us. There's still plenty of action left for the promotion relegation games today. Welcome back, everyone, to the promotion relegation games. And if you're wondering why I'm about to laugh, is because our production team has a habit of making us laugh before we go live. Just to test if we know how to still English after they make us laugh of the things that they're saying. So, recomposing myself, let's talk about the leaderboard that we've just seen after that third map coming through. Of course, we have one more map. One more opportunity for these teams to pick up those points to get themselves a slot for the next season. So let us break it down for one last time. MZR Esports currently leading the pack with an amount of points that they really should not be worrying about. 64. Okay, I'm not worried about them. Moving on. UAE and Fear tied with 41 points currently. Young Thunder sitting in fourth place there with 33. We start to trickle down, and we have Black Crystal currently in that last slot there in 8th place with 20 points. So currently, these are the top 8 going through to Season 5, but there's still one more map to be played. So let's go over to the second page and see what those point differences are. Remember, 8th place currently sitting on 20 points. Look at 9th place right now, tied with 20 points. Then you've got 19, then you've got 17. So it's not over whatsoever. That top 8 can still look very different at the end of our next map, which is, of course, Erangel, which everyone tonight has already had a chance to play, has had an opportunity to learn, which is what we were talking about. They made a few mistakes in that first map, but now they have a second chance. And Patchy, unfortunately, I'm staring at Solar Esports, my man, sitting there in 14th place, 6 points.
Yeah, I think at this point we can kind of just scratch it out that, look, there's still a chance, right? If we're looking at Rain from Hell, I mean, even Raptors, Solo, Madagascar, they could potentially drop a 30 bomb and maybe make their way up there. But I mean, to consider like that we've played 3 games already and nothing like that has happened yet, it's kind of like a big ask to say that now they're going to suddenly drop a 30 bomb, because that's what they need. They basically need a 30 bomb to get up onto that first page and push somebody else down. It's going to be enough, but it's just barely going to be enough. Like they need that win. Anything less, it's not going to be enough. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's safe to say that it's most likely not going to happen, especially considering the fact that the teams that are on the first page have been a little bit more consistent today. They've done a lot better in today's games. I mean, we were talking about MZR. I was telling you how consistent they've been looking, and I mean that's reflecting in the points. They certainly have been showing that, and I don't think they can be dethroned at this point. Even if they don't make it out first place, so they're still gonna get promoted. So I mean, there's that at least. Everything else is really just a question mark for the teams. You saw how close these pages were. Last position number 8 was 20 points. The next position number 9, 20 points as well. Just below them is 19 points. And if you consider the fact that above that 8th slot in like 7 and 6, we've got 23 and 25 points, or 22 and 25 points. That's not too many points to ask. Picking up 5 points in a game should be relatively easy for the teams that are on that first page. So there's still a little bit of switching up that can happen there. But that would mean that there is only one slant of the teams that are going to make it happen. So either the teams on the first page are going to be getting the points, which means that the teams on the last page won't, and they're going to stay where they are, or the teams on the last page will get the points, and that will mean that they can get up into that first page, and then the teams on the first page won't really be able to move anywhere else. So I think that's really where we're sitting. One game is all that they've got left to make it happen. And somehow, I don't think that the teams that are leading the pack right now are going to be letting up and taking their foot off that pedal. I think they're just going to be pushing it down even more and finish strong.
Could be the case. And you also need to take into consideration, of course, that, that last map could change it all. And that last map could mean that this was an Inkosi weekend, or this was a relatively even one. Because as we look at it currently, there's a lot of teams from Umzansi sitting in that second page of the leaderboard, which means they might not be going through to Season 5. And that means that not only in FIFA did we have a complete Inkosi sweep, all slots were taken up by Inkosi players, but PUBG, for PUBG Mobile, we might be seeing more of a shift towards those Inkosi teams coming through for Season 5, which is another talking point that we might break down a little bit when we come back from this last map. Now, of course, the last map, Erangle, they've had an opportunity to play this, and this is their last opportunity to get those points. So absolutely crucial that every single team that is about to jump out of their seats hopefully has your, wonderful support from your own seats. So please, let's give it over to our casters, Patchy and Iro, for the last time today, guys. Take it away.
Thank you so much, S-Proxy. Indeed, for the last time today. It is going to be another map, the last one for today's games. It is Erangle. We've come full circle all the way back to Erangle, and we're ready to get this done. The teams have been absolutely performing today. Only 8 of them are going to get that promotion. Only 8 will get that spot secured. The rest of them will go home, and it is going to be decided who is going to be on those lists right here, right now. And ultimately, the teams that are on page number 2, this is their last chance, and all they can do is a 30 bomb. Nothing less will be enough.
And I'm hoping, that Mad Clan specifically get to do that, because we saw them dominate this map on Friday, like absolutely run away with it. I think it was 15 kills, if I'm not mistaken, Patchy.
Which team is that?
Mad Clan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they have the potential to just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Do the same strategy that they did. And of course, keep in mind that the RNG is not the same. The loadouts, the zone rotations, etc., and how the decision making. But somehow, if you're playing in a consistent mindset, then the probability of doing the same thing time in and time out is going to work out. I mean, if you look at MZR, they've run away with this Sunday finals games that we have on here. They've been consistent, like you mentioned, they've been at least top 5 every single game. And we see that continuously happening, and it's nice to see the consistency coming out of there. But not contesting each other this time around is Mad Clan and Rainbow Six. In fact, we're gonna have solo esports going up against Rainbow Six, and this is an easy eliminations coming in from solo. I mean, if you look at Prime and Optimus, very much separated on the rotations over there. Mighty and them just might as well just group up together and storm the house that Prime is located right now.
You missed a golden opportunity there, Ira. You said Prime and Optimus, but you could have said Optimus and Prime.
I know.
You should have hit it. You should have hit it, but you didn't. And now Prime is getting taken down because of it. It's a cost, a curse. He's been taken down, and now Solo, they're coming in for his life. And they will certainly be able to secure it because there is no assistance. The Optimus Prime formation has not been found. Prime has been caught alone. He's been taken down, and now Optimus is left alone without his other half. It's not enough. And Solo will just be able to pick up that free kill there for themselves.
Well, it is what it is, man. Nothing I could have said would have changed the fate of these players, and maybe getting one down. But Yujiro and Todoroki have been eliminated. Optimus trying to maybe get one confirmation in or just upset Solo Esports. But now you look at his HP, and you can tell he's quite low on HP over there, and he can't really survive that one. And the Prime and Optimus is coming to an end. They did it on purpose.
yeah, they have come to an end. Unfortunately, it's exactly as you said. They were really caught out of position there. There was no real way to get out of that. They were separated, couldn't really come to the rescue in time, and Solo was just able to capitalize on that and punish them for it. And, well, it is what it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. And now we turn our attention to that zone, which has decided to drop all the way on the western side. A lot of teams still have plenty of time to move around and make things happen. We do see Asnaya looking a little bit crowded there. Your killer is right up nice and close with, I think that's HORZ Esports over there. Could potentially get into some fights. Otherwise, the teams have some time to play with. They have some space to play with. But I'm interested to see where the next fights break out, because we saw the activity getting increasingly more and more over the last few maps. But now that we're here, it looks like they might just try and slow things down just a little bit potentially. And if that's the case, what kind of an end zone are we looking at here?
I mean, already you're looking at this map right now, and you can see that, they had a much more fair distribution of POIs sort of located for these guys. I mean, George only has, 3 teams there, compared to last game when there was, 6 teams contesting each other. So I really feel this is going to be another slow Erangle, and before we even continue, I mean, let's have a Hunger Games moment and say goodbye to Rain from Hell, because that is it. That was, the last opportunity to clutch up the Umzansi grind, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to see them in the Inkosi in the next season. So, GGs to them.
Yeah, certainly have to wait and see what's going on here. Right now, the rotations are just coming in nice and slow. No one is in too much of a rush to get eliminated right now in the last game, and no one can blame them for that, really. Fear getting some patchy points for hitting that military island, giving it some love. Certainly now they're going to have to cross that bridge to try and get into the safety of zone. Might just come into contact with the team there from the Company 6. We'll see if that does happen. It looks like they are a little bit spread out, so maybe they won't be in a position to capitalize on that bridge rotation. But in any case, speaking of rotations, we do have a lot of teams moving in from the east. Could get into a little bit of trouble there. I'm really interested to see where the next zone drops, actually, because that's going to determine a lot of what happens next, because a lot of teams are sort of split along that river that kind of divides the two halves, and they might just be fighting along there, because the George area, the East George area, is kind of in the middle of the zone at the moment. So those teams that are in that position, they kind of just sit tight. And we've also got the mountain as well in play.
Yeah,
and if that continues to be in play, it might just become a point of contention as well.
Yeah, definitely. It could potentially just so happen that these teams get into weird positions, and you could imagine them all trying to situate themselves at Gatka or Ruins or Hospital, because that tends to be the usual RNG on zones. But maybe this time PUBG says, nope, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to send it all the way to Zarki, for instance, and that's where everyone now needs to rotate, and that is just not what we're going to have. UAE playing to their strategy. This is something that I mentioned on Friday, that they have this unique strategy, and we are witnessing it right now. It's those slow rotations, waiting for everyone to go up ahead in their gameplay to see exactly where they can find themselves rotating, and that slow gameplay is where they really key at, because when it comes down to mid game and end game, that's where they really control things. And I'm hoping we get to see that side of UAE again in game number 4. We did see it in Sanhok, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was Sanhok, where they just absolutely took away the win for themselves and clutched up what could potentially be their promotions into the Umzansi. But I question how they played this entire weekend and how they haven't already secured yesterday, how they did not get into that top 8, because this was, your overall winner of the Inkosi. I mean, the way they were so consistent in their gameplay, does the pressure really hit them that hard in these promotion relegation phases that they don't even play the way they naturally do?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? It really does seem like the competition is quite high here. I mean, the standards have certainly been raising every single time, and it's not been easy to secure, any of these wins. Really, I mean, Esproxy was talking about it, you were talking about it, and how, a lot of these Inkosi teams have really shown up in the promotion relegational series this weekend, and I feel like that's really just a large part of what's going on. They have not made it easy, and so, yeah, I think UAE maybe find themselves under quite a bit of pressure. And I think a lot of teams do find themselves under pressure at this point in time, because, this is some stark competition here. It's not easy wins. It's not easy promotions at all. And of course, this new relegation format we've got going has made it even more difficult. We've been calling the grinder for a reason. And of course, now we've got HORZ Esports chasing down a couple of potential kills for themselves, trying to get some battle action going inside the vehicles. Will eventually be chased out of it and just rotate back where they came from. But certainly, they're looking for the kills. They're looking for the points. Their mindset is in the right place, because they know that this is the final countdown, as it were, the final map to make anything happen if they want to get into the top 8.
I like how they played that. They were in the chase. They looked committed. But as soon as they sort of passed that line for them, they sort of paused, break, stopped, and tried to deal the damage there on outwards. But they knew that the team was relocating to the POI. They knew that they had more sort of defense players on the end over there. MZR looking to be in a battle that they cannot control themselves. They're going up against MET, and one of their players have already been eliminated, but it does look like a confirmation of note has already been played out for MZR, and they've lost Bloody, and we've known Bloody, he clutched up real good in game number 1 over there. But will they be able to somehow stay alive in this one with Young Thunder being the champions in Erangle, winning game number 1? They haven't had any success whatsoever going into Sanhok or even Miramar. I mean, grabbing only 1 point in each game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the exact numbers were, but certainly it is going to make things tough. MZR has been pretty consistent, and they have been leading the pack, and so yeah, going up against them at this point is going to be a tough. All these teams have a lot to work for if they want to try and get any success here in this final game. It's not going to be easy, and certainly the teams like MZR are not going to make it easy. And if you were scraping together points before, it's not going to get any easier now. So here we are. Teams are getting in towards the middle of that zone. They're getting nice and close, and we are getting some eliminations there. Looks like Rain from Hell is getting themselves into a bit of trouble. A lot of teams rolling up into that central area of the zone, deciding to not really be decisive. We don't know whether it's going to go north or south of that river just yet. Maybe it'll even land on top of the river. For now, Rain from Hell is taking this fight here with the Comfy 6, and we'll see if Comfy 6 can actually defend this one. I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to. Freddy looking quite low on HP, does manage to get himself back up though. That's a useful bit right there, going in for Neon, trying to get the hits, but Skull on the back line trying to dissuade them from making that decision. But there's the elimination. Squeak, bullets land true, and eliminations come through for the Comfy 6. They do get that win there, and they do manage to come out ahead and secure the compound for themselves.
They secure those kill points, and I'm ready to bring my victory cake here for Comfy 6, because it looks like they're here for season 5. So let's see whether or not they can be here.
But you're already ready to bust out that victory cake. I don't know if I'm on that same train just yet, but certainly they are looking like they're going in that direction. I know that there's somebody behind the scenes who is certainly going to be shifting in his boots a little bit after hearing that Ira's ready to bust out that cake. We'll see.
Popping champagnes and throwing a victory party. And everyone's invited. The whole chat. You guys are all welcome. We're going to celebrate Comfy in this victorious moment as they get some eliminations. But a John Wick moment for Squeak as he just jumps off that building, crouches in to get that elimination onto Skull. And it looked very nice, I have to admit. I mean, Comfy's looking juicy right here.
Man's playing here. He's the secret behind the scenes shots right here that are being fired. But in any case, MZR are going to be crossing the bridge over into North George, getting themselves secure in that position, try and dig in for what could potentially be a very difficult mid-game for a lot of these teams. We've still got 12 teams remaining, so at least a lot of work has been done leading up to the mid-game. A lot of fights have been happening, a lot of eliminations coming through, at least a lot more than game number 1, a considerable improvement to be sure. But who's going to thrive in this situation? Look at how many teams are down in the south there. This could get a little bit of... I think they're coming to your party, Iro.
They definitely are. They're invited. Welcome. But look at that rotations. Oh, so many people close to each other. And it looks like, they're trying to secure in with the little land that they have over there. But it doesn't seem like, the push in for the rotation is the key for now, as Chaos and so many others stacked upon each other, and there isn't any breathing space between them. Looks like as well that some of them are just going to be forcing themselves onto that bridge, and then you got the likes from Your Killer Is, who could potentially look into that and start to beam them. But to look at Solo Esports, they're joining that party as well as they're going into hospital as it stands right now from that blue zone. And that is so many teams close to each other right there.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a little bit of a tight squeeze here. There's at least a couple of buildings between YT and Fear, but there's still a possibility to get some angles in there, and they're certainly looking for it. See if they can survive inside this position. At least they're safe in zone for the time being, but that zone's about to close up again. We're about to head into zone number 4, the end of the beginning, or the end of the first phase of the game, should I say. We're heading in towards mid game now, and things are about to heat up for sure. You can see that the proximity getting super, super close. I'm interested to see where the next zone drops, because that's going to force a lot of players into tough positions. Is it going to go north? Not too sure where it's dropped, but here is YT. They have decided to get the rotate going super early, and I think that's probably a good decision. It does look like that zone did head a little bit further north, so they're going to get going early on, and maybe camp on the other side of the bridge if they get a good position. They definitely don't want to get caught out here in the mouth of the bridge, so a good call to try and rotate as quickly as possible. But Clutcher coming in with some clutch shots over there is going to be punishing them for that rotation, and this is the danger of getting out early. If you're the first team to go, everyone's going to be looking in your direction, trying to put those shots in, and certainly they've landed a few. In the meantime, Solo getting into a bit of a tussle there on the back end, and MZR ready to receive. YT thought they were getting an early rotate in. They thought they were going to safety, but it's not true. MZR was waiting for them, waiting to just take them out as they tried to cross over, and they just walked straight into the jaws of a hungry lion here. MZR ready to pick up some more kills and keep their consistency going.
I thought it was actually Yokele is located on this position, but it seems to be MZR. And look at just MZR, right? There's still 40 players remaining on the map, but they've picked up 5 kills already, and they down one man. And this is the same scenario we had in Erangle game number 1, where they did lose one of the players. Maybe it is somehow their luck going into this, but you can see some players, Chaos, Minato just going through. But no, I say that, and he gets targeted. Shura gets that elimination, and these are just picking up the kill points from 5 to 7 in a moment of seconds, as Chaos tried to wing it, tried to bring in the luck for them, but it just does not pay off, as that rotation was not successful at all coming in from Chaos, as Vol has the likes of YT, who tried to make the same similar rotation, and now Hero is left in the sort of a river playing field to try grab in as much as he can as a solo. I mean, you still got Snake Eyes, and we know Snake Eyes how he clutches up in these situations, but how much more can he clutch up when there's still so many players left, right, and center within him? UAE seem to be somewhat fighting fear, if I'm not mistaken, and that is generally where they start to pick up those kill points, when they start to pick up the situations over here. Madara, unfortunately, we jump on board with them, and commentators curse where I say they start to pick up the points, but a grenade is there to end his fate. Madara down, Ace and Sahil need to get closer to each other. They need to bring the battle between these two teams. Fear trying to grasp on as well has points, and Chris is just doing the most, as now they not only pick up one player but 2 of them with the grenades, and they want to get in the confirmation. Sahil all the way up on the terrain, but it does look like he doesn't care. He's going in. He may potentially try to clutch up a revive, but you can see Swags just declining any potential revives that can come into play, and then he does get one confirmation. Chris potentially with another Kobe play is not really throwing any grenades, doesn't want to put himself in harm's way as well.
Oh man, it is getting tough here. UAE cannot drop the ball now. They've come so far and they really need the points here. Now they're trying to put it in, but Chris is making it tough. He's moving up to try and put the pressure on Ace and Sahil. Not going to crest the hill just yet. He's looking for it, but Ace has managed to get HP back up, but is he ready to take the fight already? Chris is right up here, right up in his face with the rest of Fear, trying to push over the side of this hill, trying to make something happen. Ace is going to find Swags. He's just behind the hill. He's going over the crest. Here comes the down. Ace manages to win the fight. UAE picking up some much needed eliminations. They're going to find those kills and they'll win the fight as well. Brilliantly managed by UAE. And of course, we have to give a Shura a quick shout out there, because we see him in the kill feed getting taken down. He had some really great plays earlier on there, just picking up some shots. There's some really good aim earlier on, but unfortunately getting eliminated now. But man, things are about to get even more crazy, because look how small this zone is.
Wow, and you just have to admire the clutch up coming out from Sahil. I thought his positioning was just an off. positioning, but somehow, he goes guns blazing in. He doesn't care what the situations are like. Whether he dies or not, he does manage to bring in ace, and then they 2v3 that situation, and that was amazing to see coming out from them. And then on the other hand, you do got HORZ Esports Sabir taking out some damage. He's now down to what seems to be 1420 HP. A grenade just about to connect onto Upshir, but he gets out of that position. However, G-Key is done and dusted as he gets confirmed out of this one. And it is a fight between Falcon as well as Your Killer is, and they do manage to lose one of their players. However, they do knock one, so they can, if they want, put in all of the guns and ammunitions into it, and you can see exactly that coming into play as they get the confirmation from Shroud and a knock onto Killer, and now Your Killer is in a tough situation.
Yeah, a tough situation indeed. Let's see if they can make it out of this one alive. Right now, they are the center of attention, and some nades are being prepped over here. Sabir tossing one over. Let's see if it lands. It looks like it's about to. UAE still surviving here. Sahil just on the other side of this hill. And of course, Ace right there to back him up. The smokes have popped. The Molotov just barely didn't make it to Sahil. So just keeping them alive for the time being. Ace taking a little bit of damage here is, of course, Your Killer is 3 players strong, trying to stay alive. Right in the center, or towards the middle of the zone, should I say. We got TenX off on the side here, a little bit lower down on the screen. We've got HORZ Falcon off on the side, and Sabir has pushed all the way up. Squeak and the rest of the company on the back line with 7 teams remaining. So we've made it into the top 7 here. But is the point score going to be enough? Sabir gets taken down by a nice nade from Your Killer is, but on the back line, we still have 2 or 3 teams that could potentially come in with some of that crossfire. UAE do need to get that rotate going, and it looks like they will be able to. Falcon going to just barely make it up to back health. Back up to health. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Upshir is going to be moving up as well. The fights will continue, but Sabir is in a very difficult spot. There's too many teams that are going to be rolling up into that position. I'm not sure if Falcon is going to be in a position to assist him. So I think his days are numbered, his time and zones are numbered here in this game today. But at least they've made it up into top 7 so far. A few more points of damage going in. Falcon will be eliminated, so that's goodbye to him. And now we have to see if Upshir is going to be able to survive this one. Wait it out for as long as possible. BC going in. Sabot goes down. Your Killer is still looking okay, but I think TenX has got the most players on the board right now.
Definitely, and we looked at HORZ, and I thought they would have done so well in terms of numbers, but it just started tickling down against the battle with Your Killer is, and that is the situations you're gonna find yourself in PUBG. Unfortunately, it is the very last game. All of these guys are looking to bring in as much points as possible. Althea managing to pick up Hasbots as well in the rotation over there, and that is just the solo player, if I'm not mistaken, coming out from his team to sort of ride on out with as much points as possible. Upshir getting knocked from the Don. Your Killer is responding back to Althea, however, and there you go, the confirmations done and dusted out from there. BC, which is Black Clover, if I'm not mistaken, in the position still. You also got UAE, Sahil, and Ace in the plays here. They've somehow still managed to sneak their way into top 5 and hoping to grasp onto the remaining points that is still available on the map here to sort of say GG's to them and watch them qualify into the promotions. But it's TenX who we have to love and see right now, as they are a full squad, and they do get the revive on Rick, so they still a full squad. They still can carry out some points over here. But Your Killer is somehow still have 3 players alive. I thought maybe it was just the one sort of doing the damage, but still 3 out from them.
Yeah, Your Killer is still alive and kicking. And we'll see how many teams they can actually take with them, or if maybe they'll just take a shot for that chicken. Who knows? At this point, it could certainly go in their direction if they play their cards right. Right now, everyone's got an okayish position in the zone. It is just about how they utilize it and where they take the fight from. Squeak's still alive, but there's the zone rotation all the way to the east. That's going to force a lot of players to start moving, and I don't think that it's going to be very easy to do that. TenX needs to push forward just a little bit, but they're going to go face-to-face with UAE. Of course, we do have Your Killer is that needs to get a move on as well. They have to smoke those positions up because they're going to be extremely exposed as soon as they decide to take that rotate.
Definitely. And now it's coming down to these final sort of positionings where, you know, we've come down to the seventh zone, and it is a shrinkage of half. It does look like UAE, the only cover they have is a vehicle in the playing field. I mean, they can go in behind the rock in front of them, but it's so tiny that maybe even Black Crystal could potentially take them out of that position. Or Black Clover, I think it is. Yes, it is Black Clover, right? I'm so confused.
Yeah, I'm not even too sure at this point in time, but in any case, Squeak does get a kill. Rix does get taken down there. So Squeak is still alive and kicking, trying to take the team, carrying it all just on the shoulders, trying to move them forward as far as possible. They're already in the top 5, but look at this. So many players have got their crosshairs towards Squeak. Squeak is just trying so desperately, getting a knock here, getting a knock there, trying to stay alive. HP is low. Killer is looking for it. There's the confirm. Squeak is just picking up the kills, trying to get as many points for the team as possible and doing a phenomenal job at that. Killer, now the last one left for your Killer is maybe not for much longer, depending on what's happening here. The smokes are getting popped. TenX still looking strong. UAE still a little bit of presence. And of course, BC have the player advantages as well going for them. In that, there's Bipolar just absolutely peeking out and taking Sahil down. Lots of HP damage done. And I think that should be an easy confirm as well. I'm not sure if Ace is going to be able to do that. In fact, UAE, I think, have run out of steam finally. Ace very low on HP and now all alone has to deal with both 10X and BC over there. And of course, Killer from your Killer is off on the outskirts, just trying to stay alive for as long as possible.
I mean, 10x know exactly where UAE is positioned, and we could potentially be seeing the shots coming through from them anytime now. As the rotations sort of thin out, you can see Ace dealing the damage, but it's not going to be enough as Bipolar manages to just deal back, get the eliminations. They still have some smoke screen, or potentially that is a grenade in hand from 10x, but really nobody there to even deal the damage to. As Black Clover is on the hill, BC right over there positioned. Your Killer is Killer healing up in what seems to be open playing field area. 3 teams, but 7 players remain. It is going to be a potential 3v3 situation. And I say that, and it comes into existence right now where we have 10x, but it does look like they have the slight disadvantage as they now need to come up towards the hill, and you can already see him being a mistake, trying to get some cover in, but he gets cover behind the vehicle. The bomb comes through, or the explosion comes through over there, and that is just a GG's.
Yeah, the deal might have just been sealed straight away by that, but maybe I'm speaking too soon. Some shots coming in. Bipolar does the damage, and he's looking for the secure. He will find it. Yo-Yo goes down, and that's the match straight away over. Just a pincer move coming in. 10x gonna take that chicken dinner away and say thank you very much.
That was really good coming out from them. You know, in the Inkosi, we did see them do somewhat successful plays as well. But to get the winner chicken in the final game is really where it is. And then you also have Black Clover, who have been on that second page the entire evening. I don't know if this is going to be enough for them to sort of come through with the gameplay that they've had. But they did secure in a couple kills. Your Killer is as well. You know, they've been missing the entire evening, and this is a team that did so well in Friday, right? Getting a winner chicken dinner, and then some consistency across the map.
If Viper was here right now, he'd be absolutely elated with the fact that 10x made that winner chicken dinner actually happen there on the last map. And of course, the question begs itself, Iro, who is going to be actually taking one of those 8 slots for the next season? We'll dive into that a little bit later. Let's first break down what happened in that game. So, wow, I can't even believe it. The last game of the promotion relegation weekend done and dusted. We are moments away from finding out who's going to be going through to the next season. Patchy, how would you break down to this weekend, basically? How would you break down, what we've seen, the patterns we've seen change from, Inkosi players heading into Umzansi, how that's changed over the seasons, and now how we're looking at a potential Inkosi sweep coming through, taking slots, maybe?
Well, look, I mean, the first thing to state is that obviously this weekend has been an absolute grinder. Our description of being a grinder is absolutely apt. It's exactly what we've been seeing. And then to follow that up is, I mean, the whole point of what we were talking about in terms of the grinder is the refinement of the teams and actually, getting separating the wheat from the chaff, as it were, the best of these groups. And when it comes to this weekend, we have absolutely seen that the Inkosi teams have something to offer. They have come to play. That's the bottom line. And we talk about this, but it is really true. Every season things get better and better, and that's just because the competition continues to increase, because these tournaments continue to happen and these teams continue to participate. And the quality of teams has definitely been rising in the Inkosi, and you can see that result. And obviously the true test is the test in the long run, right? So we've put them through the grind now today, and the teams will be they're about to be decided who is going to be promoting up to season 5. And once they get there, we're going to see if they can stay there, because I have to bring up the fact that we've been talking about Inkosi versus Umzansi, but if we talk about that, let's talk about Solar Esports. Let's talk about 7AOK. Those are teams that came in from Inkosi and they found themselves in this promotion relegation series. And the reason for that is because they started out really strong. They had something new to offer, but as soon as they got figured out, it was a little bit of a different story. And now they found themselves down here in this weekend's promotion relegation series. And so the question is, yes, we have these fantastic performances coming out of these Inkosi players. It looks like an Inkosi sweep in the promotion relegation series. So we're going to have a lot of Inkosi teams promoting up into season 5. The real kicker comes in whether they can stay there. Just like it's about endurance in the promotional relegation series, just like it's about consistency, it has to be consistency moving up. When you get promoted, you're going to be tested even more, because then you're going to be playing against teams that they've been playing in these seasons time and time again. They've been playing against each other for a long time. Their strat book is as thick as my dictionary. It is absolutely next level for them, and you have to get on that strategy game. You have to get on that tactics game. You cannot come in with an A4 page of strats. You've got to have a book. It has to be ready. You've got to be able to adapt. You've got to know how to respect the teams and stay in place. It really becomes a whole different game, because it's a long distance sprint when it comes to Umzansi. In any case, the MVP, of course, has to come out of TenX after their fantastic performance there in that final game. 5 kills and 823 damage done by Bipolar from TenX Esports, coming off with that chicken dinner as well. It has to come from them. So well done there for to Bipolar and, of course, TenX. And now the real kicker starts to come in, and we get to see which teams are going to be moving up into Season 5. And that's where the true test begins, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had to put my glasses on. I don't have prediction goggles, but this is the closest thing that I can do. But we're going to take a look into that exactly in a moment. We're going to know exactly who's going to be the last 8 slots be taken for Season 5. Here it is. MZR Esports Africa taking the first slot. Undisputed AE taking the second slot. 10X Esports sliding on in there in third place and taking another. Fear, Black Clover, Young Thundercats, and Comfy 6 still in Umzansi. And of course, the CHAOSxKINGS taking the last slot for the Umzansi Esports League Season 5. So not an Inkosi sweep whatsoever, and absolutely congratulations to all the teams. An actual, even distribution of teams from both Umzansi and Inkosi, at least, in the last 8 slots, going through to the next season. Unfortunately, very, very close heading up into this next page, and unfortunate for all of these teams on this page. But they're going to have to head back to Inkosi, back to the drawing boards, and unfortunately back not in Umzansi for the next season. So, unfortunate, but congratulations to all the teams. Patchy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I feel like that first page is actually really well representative of what we've been seeing. We've been talking all weekend about Inkosi versus Umzansi, and if we actually just take a step back and have a look at it, both of those scenes have improved so dramatically over the last few seasons, and up to Season 4, it has been fantastic to see what these teams have brought to the table. And so it just makes absolute sense that page number 1 of this leaderboard is looking so evenly distributed. 4 teams from Inkosi, 4 from Umzansi. They're going to be getting back up into Season 5, getting a chance to slug it out with the best of them. And I mean, it's just going to be up and up from here. It's been absolutely representative of this season as a whole. Just great stuff coming out of the teams. And I expect Season 5 to be even more of a banger, because if this is what we're seeing out of the teams that are coming up now, the teams that are coming up next season, even better, hopefully. And we'll see that continue to improve season after season.
Of course, absolutely. Congratulations to all the teams and players making it through to the next season of the Umzansi Esports League. But before we even look forward to the next season, we have to finish off season 4. And that starts with the finals happening next weekend. Same time, same place for both FIFA 22 and PUBG Mobile. So if you want more information on that, if you want to follow the dates, if you want to follow the social media, get all the extra content and a couple of hype videos and introduction recap videos that we're going to be posting this upcoming week, then you better go make sure you go check out the nodwingaming.africa website so you can get that content. Now, speaking about it, I can't believe we're going to say this, but that's the promotion relegation weekend done and dusted. Absolute congratulations to everyone, and thank you to our production, our observers, our amazing casters for coming through and giving us the action this weekend. It's been an absolute jam-packed day. It's been a jam-packed weekend, and of course we couldn't have done it without all of our viewers. So we hope to see you next weekend. Of course, we've got plenty of action. In fact, I think we also do have a 4-map circuit next weekend. It's going to be busy. It's going to be very busy for these players, and they have to prove who's going to be the best in Africa. Until then, we'll see you. Have a lovely evening, and for now, goodbye.